Hi, everyone. You are listening to episode 12. I cannot believe it's been that many, but whatever. 12 of Maps and Graps. My name is Lyric Swinton. I'm your host. If you notice, I don't sound like I usually do. That's because I was in Toronto all weekend for Forbidden Door. And, I don't sound like a full grown man, which is progress. But I don't sound like my usual cheery, bubbly self. But don't worry, I am very, 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 very excited to be recording this episode. This has been an incredible weekend. And I have a very special guest who was there for the entire weekend.
Sure was.
Introduce yourself, Charlie. She's back.
I'm
First recording.
back. Yeah, we recorded an episode. Gosh, it was like a couple of
Episode
months ago at
two.
this point. Episode 2,
Yeah,
yeah, it was like one of the
episode
first
two.
ones. But yeah, hi everyone, I'm Charlie. You might have seen me over on the Wrestle Purists page. That's where I do my main stints of podcasting and writing. And yeah, I spent the weekend in Toronto as well for Forbidden Door, and it was an incredible time. It was an incredible trip. It was everything I wanted it to be and more, honestly.
Absolutely. I think all of us knew it was going to be great. I don't think we
Yeah.
understood how awesome it was going to be. I think that everybody walked away with having made a new friend or two or
Yeah.
five or and it was just such a cool environment. Obviously, it wasn't just Forbidden Door. There was also Collision over on Saturday, which was really really awesome. Ring of Honor tapings as well. So and
Yep.
then a very stacked 0 hour card on top of Forbidden Door, as well as the post show media scrum, which we both got to go to. So there was a lots and lots of stuff. I'm like yeah, I feel like AEW and New Japan are the only companies that can throw that much wrestling at me and have me still wanting to watch more wrestling this week.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That was absolutely incredible. So we'll just start in order. So we'll just briefly talk about Collision. I think like the highlights will suffice.
Yeah.
So we opened the show with Jericho and Sting, which was super duper cool. Um, And obviously, at that point, we had been waiting to know who Sting and Darby's partner was going to be. And guess who it was? It was Tetsuya Naito. And the crowd had been chanting for it. And I was so scared because I was like, if it's not Naito, this is going to be really embarrassing. I was like, if this is not Naito, this is going to be
Yeah.
super embarrassing. But it was. And if I'm not mistaken, that's Naito's first time on national TV like that. Um,
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah.
yeah. And I think it was just super cool. Like he has a look that is like perfect for that. Like his,
Yeah.
the full suit and everything and the entrance. For people who had never seen Tetsuya Naito before, I feel like you walked away from it knowing that, hey, this guy is a super big deal. And even if you weren't like, fully, oh, I know exactly what's going on, I feel like you were still excited just off of the possibility of, what the match could look like. So I think
Yeah.
that was super
Absolutely.
cool. What else happened on Collision? As you can tell, my
Um,
mind is kind of blanking on it. Blanking today. Oh
that's fine.
yeah, okay, I have it up now. We had Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Swerve Strickland.
Yes.
Um, I actually really like this match. I will say I don't want to call myself a Hiroshi Tanahashi apologist, but I am a Hiroshi Tanahashi defender. And he could have gotten up there and sat on the turnbuckle for all 10 minutes and done absolutely nothing. And I probably would have popped like he won the world title. Yeah, this is where I just completely,
Yeah.
I don't care about the discourse, guys. I got to meet him earlier that night too. And so I don't care, even though I do think I think it was a great match. Um,
Yeah.
I think it was one of his best singles matches that I've seen of him this year, and maybe attribute a lot of that to Swerve and just how good he is right now. Um, and I think obviously he did miss the high fly at the end, but Swerve covered for that pretty nicely. Um,
Yes.
yeah. Any thoughts on Tanahashi versus Swerve?
Yeah, I wasn't like when this match was announced, I was super excited for it because like getting to see Tanahashi wrestle live is always a treat. And Swerve Strickland is like one of my favorite heels in the company, right? He's just one of my favorites, point blank, period. I love Swerve. I think he's incredible. So like I was really excited to see what they did in the ring together. And I thought they had awesome chemistry. Like they like really pulled off a great match. And it was just a lot of fun to watch. And honestly, props to Swerve, like that cover at the end that you mentioned. And he was just able to work in a way that meant that Tanahashi could just like play the hits, so to say, and work with the crowd and just put on a great match. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And I think that one thing about Tanahashi that I really appreciate is that he knows better than all of us know that his body isn't where it needs to
Yeah.
be. And so like he's been going really amped up on character, and like he's just the perfect baby face. Like he's the perfect
Yes.
definition of what a baby face is. And so, like you said, it's always a treat to see him wrestle. And I think just he's still Hiroshi Tanahashi. So like for Swerve to even
Yeah.
have a match against him off name recognition alone, that's a big deal for him. Like that's a
Absolutely. Yeah.
huge deal to say that you were in the room with the ace, the savior of New Japan. So that's a super big deal.
Yeah.
Next, we had Brody King versus Andrade El Idolo. This match ended by DQ, and obviously, most
Mm-hmm.
know that AEW doesn't do a lot of DQs. So when they do them, that means they must be a big deal. Um, I had hoped that this match had led to possibly an LIJ LFI connection
Yeah.
for a Forbidden Door, but clearly not. Um, but I really did enjoy the match. That was my first time I think ever seeing Andrade wrestle in person. Um, so
Yeah. It was mine too.
yeah, so it was his second match back. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I think Brody King is so underrated. Um,
Brody King's a beast. He's like one of the best big men in AEW, and I'm really glad that like
period.
yeah, in wrestling period, yeah. And I'm glad that he's like getting more like screen time as a singles guy again in AEW because like some of the matches he had last year were incredible. Like the match he had with Darby, like the coffin match,
Oh
like
yeah,
that was just such a good match. And like Brody has great matches with whoever you throw him in the ring with, like the match with Garcia as well from this year, last year, like recent. I think it was more
yeah,
recently
it
actually.
was
I think it was this
recently
year.
super good.
Yeah, and that
Um,
match was really good. But I was really excited for this match, and I thought it was awesome. DQs aren't my favorite, but clearly it's leading to something big happening, and I was surprised it wasn't a Forbidden Door thing, but that makes me more interested, to be honest.
yeah, definitely. I think that if people remember last year when there was like all this, I don't want to call it drama, but like when it was a lot of uncertainty around Malachi Black and Buddy
Yeah,
Matthews, Brody King like almost single handedly carried the name of House of Black on his back.
absolutely.
And he's just so underrated. Like I don't think House of Black would still be around right now if it wasn't for him performing as strongly as he did. When both of those guys were out, and him and Julia Hart, they've been absolutely incredible for House of Black, and
Yes.
so super excited. I hope to see more with them. I will hope to see more for House of Black going forward. Because obviously they still are trios champions. Obviously, Acclaimed wants those belts sometime soon. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, great match. I also think Naito actually recently tweeted that he wants to team with
Yeah.
these guys soon. So I think that that's going to be super cool. Right now, he's at CMLL Fantastica Mania. So maybe
Yes.
that's why they didn't do anything because this is also a CMLL.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, but great stuff. Moving on to on Collision, we had Willow Nightingale versus Nyla Rose. Willow Nightingale got the win in the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament quarterfinal. Shout out to Willow for wrestling back to back nights.
Yes.
And two physical matches, but especially that second one was super physical. Um, I just want to see where this is going. I think that
Hmm.
obviously we have a lot of great individual competitors in the women's division, but right now, like we're lacking this story of like where are they going? Like we have great champions, great performers, great characters, super over. I think right now we just need direction for them. So
Yeah. I enjoyed the match, but like you said, I'm just interested to see where this is going. Like, because if she's now progressed in the Owen Hart tournament, and she was on the bracket side with Athena, right?
Yeah, so
So
that's round two.
I'm very, very excited for that match. That's going to be awesome. And I will just say, Nyla was great in this match too. I think she's really underrated, especially like where she's come from. Like since she joined AEW, I think she's improved a lot. And
Absolutely.
I hope again, this is just another chance for her to get more TV time and be utilized as a character, because I think there's like a lot of untapped potential there, especially as a babyface. Because like Nyla's so funny online,
Hilarious.
and if she gets to put some of that on TV, she could be something special, I think.
We saw a little bit of it with the Jade Cargo feud, but like
Yeah.
Nyla is hilarious, and I agree. I think she's progressed a lot. We've gotten to see her on TV twice this month, which
Mm-hmm.
is great. Versus Chris Statlander and versus Willow Nightingale. So I think there's a lot of untapped potential there. I think that there's maybe her and Marina Shafir will eventually be able to feud together. I know Mox has been working with Marina a lot and is really high
Mm-hmm.
up on her. He wants to see the blood sport part of her come out, so maybe that could be a good
Yeah.
feud. Um, yeah, I think So I think that there's a lot of potential there. I know that Nala's going on a tour in Japan very soon to
Yes.
TJPW, so I think that that's going to be great as well. But yeah, these women are very talented. I think that I know a lot of us wanted a women's blood and guts. I don't know if that's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen. And if it's going to happen, I'm very interested to see who's going to be in it. I'm
Yeah.
very interested to see who's going to be in it, especially with the Jamie Hayter injury. But super excited for Willow versus Athena. I tweeted this earlier this week, but I think that that match should main event. Just
Absolutely.
strictly because to this day, Willow versus Athena and Ring of Honor is the best match of the Ring of Honor Club reboot. Tony Khan
Yeah.
said that himself. Like that he said that out of his own mind. Like regardless of gender, they've had the best match. And also like Athena's just been absolutely insane.
Yes.
And Willow's been on a great run. Just got challenged by Julia,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't even know like the full implications of this match. Is this just going to be a one-off in Japan, or does that mean that we're going to get visitors, or
Yeah.
which is it's huge. So yeah, very excited for the women's division, hoping that some really great things happen.
Yes.
Moving on, we had a squash match from Hobbs. I don't really have much to say on that.
No,
Um,
I mean,
all I
I
have to
just hope that Hobbs, like, this is the start of like Hobbs is like, I don't want to say real push, because of like the stuff he was doing with the TNT title was good. Like I liked the matches a lot,
yeah,
but I hope that this is like a more like a long-term push, and like
absolutely.
he reaches new levels with it. I want him. I honestly want Hobbs to win the Owen Hart tournament.
That's a really good person to win.
I think this could be a really incredible moment for him if they give him that momentum and push, and even if he doesn't win, just have a really good run out of it. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Hobbs versus Samoa Joe could be a great
Oh,
final.
wow,
That
yeah,
could be a great final. I mean, like I will say, I think that if he beats Punk, Joe, or Roddy, I think that that would be a great final for him. Like
yeah,
I think that either any of those matches could be great. I was very impressed with Hobbs as well. His TNT title reign, his matches versus Ray Phoenix and Penta
yes,
were great, and I think that that's what we need. My only thing on the jobber stuff is like I don't want him just wrestling jobbers because I feel like that's how Wardlow lost a lot of his momentum of just
yeah,
constantly wrestle. I mean, same thing with Jade Cargill of just
yeah,
we talk about this of just like AEW building big stars of just big men and women like they can't just be facing jobbers, every week. They need to face, actual opponents and,
yeah,
like have these like, actual thoughtful matches. So yeah, that's what I want for Hobbs. Like I don't want to
yeah,
see this is the last time I want to see a squash match from him in a minute.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like with their powerhouses in AEW, like some of their builds has been very rinse and repeat of just, oh, we're just gonna throw a bunch of like jobbers and like low level talent at you to like absolutely destroy. And that's cool and all, but I want to see something different and something more dynamic with it. And I feel like Hobbs is a guy that can like really utilize that and really use it in his favor. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. So that's exciting. Lastly, we had Bullet Club Gold and the Guns versus CM Punk, FTR, and Ricky Starks. Um, Good match. I will say I don't know what's up with all these long ass matches to main event
Mm-hmm.
Collision. Like cliffhanger, guys. Like I think I said that with the first episode. Like, wow me. Can we get like a cliffhanger or something? Yes, we did get the
Yeah.
Guns joining Bullet Club, which was really Club Gold, which was really cool. But it's just like these 23 minute tag matches of just, I think we're still lacking directional. Okay, so what's next for any of these guys? Like, what are FTR doing with the tag titles right now? Where
Yeah.
is CM Punk going from here? What does Bullet Club Gold want? Like,
Yeah.
what do they want? What's next for Ricky Starks? Obviously, the 6-man, 8-man tags have been great, like great matches, but
Yeah.
it's kind of been feeling like, where are they going?
Yeah.
Great match
Yeah.
though.
I agree. Like the match itself was like really good, and like just the atmosphere in the building, like it was like you could tell like all throughout the show that people were just waiting for the moment that Punk's music hit so they could boo him, because like Toronto was it was very much a divisive crowd. Like there was a lot of people there, like both nights, that were just booing the hell out of Punk, and it just made for an electric atmosphere. Like whether you like the guy or not, like he was drawing heat, and it like really added to the match itself, because
Okay.
like even after like the first like 5 minutes, even though they were hating on Punk still so much, it added more to it because they were cheering so hard for the other team, which is crazy because Punk's not meant to be the heel. Like right now he's not in this match. So but it was just crazy, and I honestly think this has been like the Guns best performance in a what
Absolutely.
like in AEW at the moment. Like they really added a lot to this match. Like they had great chemistry every time with like everyone they were in the ring with. And like we saw like the FTR matches, they weren't the best.
Mm-mm.
But like during this, they really fit the vibe of Bullet Club Gold. And I think that honestly being paired with Jay and Juice could bring them up to a new level. And I've got to say, Juice Robinson is one of the funniest guys on AEW TV.
He's grown
He
up.
is incredible. Like I liked Juice before, like even before he joined AEW, I was really high on Juice on like his New Japan stuff. But like this run, like since Jay signed and they paired him back together, has been top notch stuff. He is such a character.
I liked him as a wrestler. The
Hmm.
character part, I don't think I really clicked for me until
Yeah,
AEW, and also him and Jay getting back together. I think they play off each other
yeah,
like amazingly well. And I will say, like when Jay like left New Japan, and like I think people are like, oh, I'm gonna miss that relationship, and like to see it play
yeah,
out on national TV like that, it's just so cool. The Guns, yeah, they've been performing well. I think also FTR has been performing better because I will say
hmm,
they haven't had a lot of great standout performances this year at
yeah,
all. But I will say between Collision this past week and this week, these are probably the best performances they've had all year. So
yeah,
FTR, I would just need to see them actually do something with what's going on
yeah,
with tag belts. Obviously, there's going to be this blind tag tournament coming up, so
hmm,
that's going to be huge. Trent also has been talking about like best friends of like what do we have to do to like
yeah,
finally win the big one. So I think that's a big. I feel like that's a big moment waiting to be tapped for
yeah,
AEW. Still, one of those big, just like when OC won the belt, when Chris Statlander won the belt. I
yeah,
feel like that's one of the last original people, feel good moments to
yeah.
still happen.
It's like I don't want to say anyone deserves to win a belt because of like I'm not like that sort of fan. I don't feel like anyone deserves to win belts. Like that you've got to earn the opportunities in that. But like it would be such like a feel good moment for the crowd because every like loads of people love the best friends. They get such big reactions. And like you said, they are they're like AEW originals. So like I wouldn't say it's like a reward for them, but like it would be such a feel good moment. I kind of feel like Tony's dropped the ball a little bit by like not like capitalizing on that yet, but I hope we get to see it like within the next year or so.
Absolutely. I mean, just look at how over they still are. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if they're wrestling like a dark match. It doesn't matter if they're wrestling at the top of the card. And then they lose all the time. But they are
Mhm.
still so over,
Yeah.
with the crowd, and everybody loves them. Everybody's invested in Chuck and Trent and Sue and
Yeah.
all the friends that they bring along, whether they're with Rocky or Bandito or Chaos, like they're still so loved. Um, and so yeah, I went to see them get that moment. But back to Collision, it was cool to see that even if the crowd hated everybody else, they still loved Ricky Starks. Like
Mhm.
they booed everybody else,
Yep.
but they love Ricky Starks. And so that was really cool to see. I'm interested to see what's next for him. He's in the Owen
Yeah.
Hart tournament too, right? Yeah.
He is. Yeah.
So I think Starks versus Hobbs and also could be a really big match, but
Yeah.
I don't think either of them could afford to lose to each other. Um,
Mhm.
so
It'll
that's
be interesting to see what happens with that.
yeah. So I think they're what currently 1-1 or 1-0-1.
I think like on the books it's technically 1-0, but they are 1-1 because they had the lights out match at
Yes,
Grand Slam.
exactly. Um, so yeah,
Just one more thing about that match, like the moment where like the dueling chants for like CM Punk and Switchblade, those were sustained for so long. Like I don't know how well it transferred onto TV because if I haven't watched any of it back, but they were going for a solid like 2 minutes of just like let's go Switchblade CM Punk, and that was really cool because I've been a Jay White fan for ages, and him getting so over with the crowds, and not even just because it was CM Punk who was against and everyone wanted to boo Punk, like they were popping for Switchblade like last week when he was in the match with like other people, and this week when he was in the match with other people, and like when he's had matches with Ricky, like everyone really likes Jay White, and he fits so naturally on TV. Like
absolutely.
I'm just so excited to see like what Tony does with him. And I think Bullet Club Gold, now that they've established like 2 new members, we need a live promo and a mission statement. Like what is next for them? Like are they going for gold? Are they just terrorizing like the locker room? Like what do they want with AEW?
Yeah, I love Switchblade, and I think that he was helped tremendously by the fact of that was a much larger New Japan crowd than typical. So
Yes.
like there are a lot more fans I feel like at that Collision crowd who knew not just who he is in AEW, but knew, his entire background. They've been Bullet
Yeah.
Club fans for a long time. Like they are here for the Switchblade. And not saying
Mhm.
that other crowds don't, but like I feel like these are people who've really been following his career for a
Yeah.
very long time. Um, yeah, I need the live promo. I just because
Mhm.
simply I think I have a theory that Tony has kept a mic out of Jay White's hands simply because you put a mic in Jay White's hands and really let him run, a lot of people on that roster are going to get embarrassed. Like I think
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
steals he steals the spotlight. He can steal the spotlight so effortlessly. Even if everybody else is supposed to be like, the people you're focusing on. He did that a lot in New Japan. Like being
Yeah.
able to like be a big star amongst the Okadas of the world, he did a lot of that on the mic. Like his backstage comments were must see TV. Like they were
Yep.
must see. That's how I honestly got into Jay White because I would see all his backstage stuff. I'm like this guy is great, and then I saw the wrestling later. But like
Mhm.
his backstage comments were stuff of legend, like the Tajay show. Like so,
Yeah.
you put that on AEW TV, like I guarantee you, like we're going to have different conversations about who are the best talkers in the company.
Yeah. So since Jay White signed, one of my like the things I'm most anticipating is when he finally comes face to face with Hangman again. Yeah, because like his like backstage promo about like leading up to Forbidden Door last year, where he was like talking about how like all the guys had to run away, and like and he was saying about for Hangman they built him a whole company to get over and that sort of thing. And then he was like talking shit after like the Forbidden Door match last year about how he was like now like 2-0 over him or something. So the minute you put them two in a face to face, that is going to be like I guess not like a turning point, but it's going to be like a moment in
I think
AEW.
that's
And
where
I don't know if people realize that just yet, but it's going to be a moment.
I think that's where he moves more center, as
Yeah.
far as center focus on AEW. Like right now, I feel like he's on like these fringe programs.
Hmm.
Like that Hangman feud is probably going to be the real test.
Yes.
Maybe we get Hangman versus Jay White at All In. Who knows? Like, I mean, I would love that because you
I
got
mean,
Jay White isn't British, but he's super
hmm,
over with UK fans. I feel like
yeah.
that specifically for Australian wrestlers, a lot of them, like are very well known on the UK Indies, just because like the wrestling scene in Australia isn't as big,
Yeah.
as I guess people would want it to be. So I think that would be a great match. Honestly, I would love to see it,
Hmm.
especially if you're going to run Adam Cole versus MJF,
Yeah.
because Adam Cole is another person who's going to have a great feud eventually with Jay White,
Yeah.
hopefully. Um, so yeah, super exciting stuff. Um, skip. Oh, I skipped Rampage, but not too much to talk about. We had Swerve team up with United Empire, Jeff Cobb, Kyle Fletcher, Will Ospreay, versus Chuck, Rocky, Trent, and Yo. That was a pretty cool match. Seeing Swerve and Will Ospreay team up was really weird.
Yeah.
Not weird in a bad way. It's just like, damn, anything really can happen.
Hmm.
But the highlight of that night was Jack Perry versus Doki. For people who have never been seen Doki before, they were in for a treat. Like, I don't think you got to see the match, but he completely. We probably really should have seen the Jack Perry heel turn coming like from a mile away.
Hmm.
Obviously, people came cheering for Jack. By the end, they were complete 100% Doki supporters.
Yeah.
Like he got the entire crowd on his side. He said he wants to come back to AEW sometime soon. Super exciting stuff. But like, um, I became a Doki believer in Best of the Super Juniors, and
Hmm.
this man is awesome. Like he's just incredible
Yeah.
stuff comes out at the end. Um, but we can get into 0 hour now. So
Hmm.
we had a dark match, Tom Lawler versus Sir Pitts and Co. because Adam Cole came down with a fever, so wasn't able to compete. So we didn't get Adam Cole Bebe versus Filthy Tom Lawler, which was super sad. But
Yeah.
dark match was cool. It was not really long. The dark card started with the Mogul Embassy versus Chaos. And their fourth member with Chuck, Rocky, and Trent was El Desperado. It's always great seeing Despy. Like
Oh my gosh, I
that
was
was
so
my
happy.
yeah. Like I was gonna say no. It's my second time seeing him wrestle in person.
Hmm.
But it was so good. He also wrestled a match for Ring of Honor tapings the night
Yes.
before. But honestly, that's what I took away from that match. Obviously, Mogul Embassy won, but I just love seeing El Desperado. That
Yeah.
was super cool.
So
Next,
when Despi came out on Ring of Honor, like I popped so huge because I think that was like the first big surprise of the night, like for the
yeah,
Collision tapings. Obviously, like the Ring of Honor tapings after as well had a few surprises, but like El Desperado's music hit, and I just turned to my brother and I was just like, "Oh my god, Despi's here!"
it's so funny because like
I was desperate to see him on the card. Like he was like one of the only people I was sad that hadn't made it.
at that point I was still kind of like really tired, and
Hmm.
I was like on my phone, just like scrolling and just like just and then I heard that music. And I literally popped out of my chair like
Yep.
straight. And like I started screaming. So that was where my voice started to go to shit. Like
Yeah.
that was the moment where my voice started going to shit because I lost it.
Hmm.
He's one of those people, him, Shingo, and Hiromu Takahashi were like the people I was really sad. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get to see them. And it
Yeah.
really broke my heart. And so he was the first one. And then obviously we get LIJ.
Yep.
We thought it was just Bushi.
Yeah.
And then like when I saw like Hiromu and then Shingo, that was
Yeah.
so yeah. Always great seeing Despy.
We were a little bit spoiled with the Ring of Honor tapings, like the
Oh
ones
my
after
gosh.
as well, like because of like United Empire had their match, And like I popped huge for that because
Of
I'm a big
course.
UE girly. I was so into that. And then after I turned to my friends, I was just like, wait, if United Empire had just had a match, does that mean that El Phantasmo's here? And then the next match was the El Phantasmo match, and I was like, oh my god, ELP. Yeah, my videos from his entrance are so funny because like the E comes up on the screen and you can hear me gasp so loudly. I was so excited. Like El Phantasmo, El Desperado, Shingo, and Hiromu. Those four guys were
That
like
was,
ones
yeah.
I was just like, why the hell are they not on the card? And then they were on. They were announced for the 0 hour, and they were on the Ring of Honor taping. So it was, this whole weekend was booked for me.
Like,
Honestly, like that's how it
I
felt at points.
literally got everything I wanted. I got
Yep.
to see everyone I wanted. The only thing, and obviously nobody could prevented this. Only person I had wanted to see was Jamie Hayter, and obviously she's injured.
Yeah.
I feel like the losses this year were mostly on the women's side.
Mhm.
Just like there were a lot the gaps this year, like the injury stuff. I think it hit the women's side so much harder this year than it hit the men.
Yeah.
And because I do think that there were definitely I think there were definitely plans for more for the women for Forbidden
Yeah.
Door. And injuries, have on both the New Japan and the AEW side run out.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that I think that I missed out on.
Yeah.
Everything else,
It was
um,
great.
perfect, like literally perfect. Obviously, I would have loved some of these people on the main card. Shingo said he was disappointed. I'm like, I need a
Yeah.
Shingo singles match next year. Like, book it, you cowards. Give me
Exactly. Shingo
Kenny
Hangman.
Shingo.
Kenny
Oh,
Shingo. Ooh.
Kenny and Shingo have never faced each other. They've
Yeah.
never faced each other because obviously he was a Dragon Gate guy.
Yeah.
He was a DDT guy. By the time New Japan, like Shingo got to New Japan right when Kenny left.
Yeah.
And so that's my dream. Like, Shingo and
God, that'd
Osprey,
be.
I think Shingo is probably Osprey's tied for Osprey's greatest opponent
Mhm.
with Kenny. Like, because I feel like they're tied now. And I think that they would have I think Kenny and Shingo would be an absolutely instant classic.
Yeah.
Meltzer would give it
God.
like nine
Yeah.
stars. Um,
I want to see Shingo wrestle so many of the AEW guys.
yeah.
Like one of the big ones that I want. Like I remember tweeting, because someone did a tweet of, oh, what's your dream match for Shingo at Forbidden Door, and I was like, well, if Eddie Kingston's injured, give me Bruce or Hangman, and then obviously Shingo and Eddie got put in the same bracket for the G1,
Night
and
one.
I lost
Night
my mind.
one. They are night
I
one.
can't wait. I
July
am so
16th.
so excited.
That night is going to be so you have basically how it's going to happen. July 15th, you have Kenny faces Vikingo for
Yeah.
AAA Triple Mania. You have over a Slammiversary. Trinity's challenging for the Knockout Women's World Championship. And then you have over on the Noah NJPW side, you have Katsuhiko Nakajima versus Kento Miyahara. Then
Hmm.
directly right afterwards is basically night one of the G1. And we're kicking off with Shingo versus Eddie. Lots of great stuff happening across a lot of different promotions
Yes.
in like a 36-hour span, and
Yeah.
it's going to be absolutely insane.
It's a great time to be a wrestling fan.
I really feel like if you limit yourself to only watching one company and like that's for anybody, you're really missing out, man. Like even for AEW fans, like I hope that this was a watershed moment for you. Like go watch some New Japan. Like
Yep.
last year Forbidden Door was like that for me, and now I'm obsessed with New Japan. Like New Japan
Hmm.
is my promotion of the year right now, just because
Oh, absolutely.
they've been
It's been incredible.
they've done nothing bad. Like I mean, they haven't had a bad show yet. I've enjoyed
Yeah.
absolutely everything that they put out this year. Um, I'm very proud of what they've done with that roster. But yeah, I think it's just super cool. Moving on in the 0 hour, we
Hmm.
had another our Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament quarterfinal match. Athena defeated Billy Starks. That was super cool. I mean,
Yeah.
Athena's awesome. She loves, what does she calls it, breaking porcelain hussies. Uh,
Mhm.
I couldn't get, and I think I told you this because we were sitting next to each other. I was like, imagine being 18 years old on the Forbidden Door card.
That's crazy. She was
This is
Billy Starks was the youngest woman, not even the youngest woman, just the youngest talent on that entire card, like top to
absolutely,
bottom, 0 hour to the main event. And I'm so happy for her. She's been incredible this year. She's had a hell of a run, and she's just like what graduated high school.
absolutely. I think she has worked nine times out I believe the most rigorous schedule out of just about any indie wrestler in the world.
Mhm.
The schedule that she's been working, her and Nick Wayne,
Yeah.
which is very interesting because the rumors are that Billy Starks has already signed. Obviously, we know Nick Wayne has already signed.
Yeah.
They Nick Wayne debuts in like 3 weeks.
Yep.
And so I'm assuming that right around the same time, Billy's going to be probably on TV more frequently. Like it's going to be we're getting a new wave of young blood infused in
Yes.
AEW soon. So that's going to be super fun. Obviously, if I've said this once, I'll say it again. Athena right now is the best women's wrestler in the world.
Yep.
Always great to see her perform, and her versus Willow, that second match needs to main event whenever it happens.
Yes.
Um, Next, we had El Fantasmo versus Stu Grayson. This match was 7 minutes, but I loved it. Like, I loved it.
Mhm.
Two of Canada's finest. I think a lot of people who haven't been watching Ring of Honor TV, this was their first time realizing that Stu Grayson actually is no longer a part of the Dark Order
Yes.
and has joined the Righteous. Um, but these guys are great. I would love to see them run it back and like have a longer match. I hope that
Absolutely.
if Tony could like get ELP for like Ring of Honor tapings and let these guys really like have a longer match, I would
Yeah.
love that. Like they had fantastic chemistry.
Yeah, it was a really fun like 7 minute match. Like I was so into it anyways because like I'm a big ELP fan. I think Stu Grayson's great. So like I was just excited for this anyways. And then they just had a really good match and like the time they were given and like the crowd was super into it as well. Like they were popping for all the right moments. And I will just say the crowd was incredible all night. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But this was just such a fun time and I hope, like, I love watching El Fantasmo in New Japan, and like, I'll watch him like in any company he wrestles in. But I hope like he can do more stuff with Ring of Honor as well, and even on like AEW TV. I'd love to see him like get like a Rampage or Dynamite match. I think it'd be awesome. I think he deserves that platform to be exposed to a wider audience, just to see
Absolutely.
like the work he does. And I hope he has a great G1.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to see what his G1 looks like. He had a
Mm-hmm.
really pretty good I liked his New Japan Cup matches this year. So
Yes.
really excited to see how his G1 goes. We don't have too
And he
much
had a great feud with Shingo last year. Like,
Oh,
if
great.
you're just getting into these guys, watch the Shingo El Fantasma feud because that was like some of the best stuff last year.
So
It was incredible.
I've been actually going back and watching through because I found that feud by accident. I
Mm-hmm.
was on YouTube, and you know how sometimes like New Japan will post like full pay-per-views on YouTube randomly,
Yeah.
and have them up for like 3 days and then take them off.
Yeah.
So they posted Rumble on 44th Street, and
Mm-hmm.
I was just watching through, and for some reason I end up on the El Fantasmo Shingo Takagi street fight. I'm like, hold on, this match is fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
This is awesome. And yeah, you gotta like
Yeah.
get into it. They have some really great like just straight wrestling matches too. But and then make sure you go on YouTube, look up the backstage comments, and then you see
Yes.
like the t-shirt battles. ELP is my daddy, Shingo is my daddy, the Who's Your Daddy matches. A lot's been happening with those two.
Yeah.
And
It's
now
like,
like they're like
oh,
friends.
yeah, it's like Shingo's so incredible in ring, and like ELP's a great wrestler too. But like where Shingo does like less of the character work, ELP does so much character work, and like it really balanced out the feud as a whole, and it just made for like such like an incredible time watching. And there was so many funny moments and just like really great matches that came out of it. So 100% recommend that feud if you haven't seen it.
Definitely. I think that ELP elevated Shingo a lot of ways in a character perspective. Like
Yes.
obviously Shingo's like the better wrestler, duh.
Hmm.
But in a character perspective and a charisma perspective of just like showing more of his personality to the crowd. And
Yeah.
like, I think that ELP definitely helped Shingo with that. And so super cool stuff if you haven't already seen it.
Mhm.
Um, moving into the last match, which was Los Ingobernables de Japón versus, which is Bushi, Hiromu Takahashi, and Shingo Takagi versus United Empire, Jeff Cobb, Kyle Fletcher, and TJP. This was good. This was a 7-minute sprint, obviously, to get both of the teams on the card. Next year, I want to see them in like the 505 situation. Like,
Yes. That'd
give
be
me
awesome.
BCC versus United Empire. Like, BCC versus United Empire. Like, BCC versus
Yeah.
was already like that was a peak for me.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh yeah.
but give me like BCC versus United Empire next year, just because like that. Or I'm gonna be honest. Now this is one. Actually, I lied. There's other thing that was missing. Where the fuck was David Finlay?
Where was
Where
David Finlay?
like everybody like no Dan Maloney, no Clark Connors, no Ghetto on screen. Like,
Yeah, there was a lack of Bullet Club on this year's Forbidden Door, which
and
was
this is
really interesting.
Bullet Club's 10th anniversary year.
Yep.
So
Which I don't know whether that means that something big's coming elsewhere or whether they're really just buying into this Jay White can't wrestle for New Japan anymore because he lost a match to Eddie Kingston back in oh my gosh, February now. So whether they're like really holding on to this kayfabe stipulation that was put into place, whether that was because Jay White was meant to go to WWE or whatever, don't know, not my business. But yeah, there was a very distinct lack of any Bullet Club activity on Forbidden Door, which is like a damn shame because like now that Clark Connors is Bullet Club as well, he had a great showing on Forbidden Door last year. Like, and yes, maybe he wasn't meant to be on the card, but still, like, I feel like there could have been a place for like one of like the new tag teams, like in Bullet Club, to like even just like do a Ring of Honor match, like
absolutely,
do something with the Ring of Honor tapings. I feel like there was like a gap for them, but we'll see what happens in the next few months. I'm sure that David Finlay's cooking something with this kind of all-star like young boy Bullet Club that he's formed.
absolutely, yeah. I noticed a lack of LA Dojo participants. There are a
Yep.
lack of junior heavyweights. I think especially coming off of the best of the Super Juniors, I would have loved to see like a big 4-way junior heavyweight showcase. Like throw Hiromu in there, throw Darby in there. Like just throw all these guys in there, Leah Rush in there, like just a whole bunch of these guys. And you know what? I will say, I think that maybe what's happening with AEW and New Japan is like, I don't think maybe they didn't expect for Forbidden Door to be like such a recurring thing, and so like they're trying to like save stuff for later, which I mean, well, it's understandable, but like coming off of that Rockstar Best of the Super Juniors, like where was Master Wato? Would have loved to see that. So yeah, there was a Bullet Club shaped hole.
Yes.
Obviously,
Absolutely.
everything else was so good to the point where anything that wasn't there, it wasn't missed too badly. But looking back now in like hindsight, I'm like, where the hell is David Finlay? Yeah, so
yeah,
it was cool to have LIJ versus United Empire. Want to see all these guys on the main show next year.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Just again, like Shingo in this match again was just awesome. Like his back and forth with Carl Fletcher, especially, like that was like one of the highlights of the match. Like they were just throwing forearms and going at it. It was just an awesome match to watch.
Kyle Fletcher tweeted after the match he wants Shingo in a singles match. So especially with Kyle Fletcher now being an AEW contracted talent, I'm interested to see where that happens. Possibly on a New Japan Strong show in America, possibly going to the New Japan Strong show over in on Korakuen Hall July 4th and 5th. There's a lot of options there, and I think also, I think after the success of this, I think we're going to see a lot more interaction, like in the between Forbidden Doors between Japan and New Japan and AEW. Like I'm almost positive we're getting Okada Danielson 2 at Wrestle Kingdom 18. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I hope that Omega Osprey 3 is at Wrestle Kingdom. Would I love it at Wembley? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But like guys, the way that these guys wrestle, like they're gonna need more time to like really repair and train.
100%. Yeah, I agree completely. Like, because like All In's like 8 weeks away.
Not far
Like
at
eight,
all.
like it's like barely 2 months at this point. Like, and they had like 6 months between their Wrestle Kingdom and Forbidden
Yeah,
Door matches. And I think another 6 months is honestly what they need in between those. Not even just the sake of like their recovery and that, because like they went to war, and we'll talk about it in a
yeah,
bit. But like to let the story breathe, and both guys have their own things going on as well in their respective companies. Like Will Ospreay's about to be in the G1, and like he's got a big match coming up in the UK as well. He faces Leon Slater on the
oh yeah.
9th of July, I believe, at the Rev Pro
Just
show.
battered Leon Slater on behalf of
Yes.
because of Dan Maloney, being
Yeah.
the creator. Yeah, if you haven't seen that stuff, go look at
Yeah.
Ross on live. Good stuff.
And obviously Kenny's got all of the BCC and Elite storylines that's still going on, because there's no way that that match was the end of it. Like it can't be. Like it. Like there's still so much meat left on the bone there, and with Blood and Guts coming up, who knows what's going to happen with that. So I think they're going to give it time to breathe, and I don't think it will be the All In match, because I feel like there's not bigger matches per se, but like different things that both guys could be doing that would be just as monumental as a third match for them.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I think that they need more time to recover, and I think we need time to like let the story breathe. I don't think that's enough
Mm-hmm.
time, just because we're not going to get much development between then, at least especially on the Osprey side. Like he has a
Exactly.
G1, so and I think that the big or overarching story here that needs to be, we need to get further into is the Kenny and Don Callis. Like there's
Yes.
so much untapped stuff between the, Callis, Takeshita. I think Kenny versus Takeshita might be the match.
That's what I was just about to say. Kenny
I
versus
just thought about
Takeshita could be the match at All In.
that
And
because
where I don't know where you put it on the card, because it's not going to be for a title, but I wouldn't be mad if they main evented it.
like the people have been very. This is also the argument that I've been saying about the CMFTR versus the elite stuff. Like, no offense, guys, but people have been very clear. They want a Kenny Omega singles match. Like,
Yes.
love the elite. Hello. Like, hello.
Yeah.
But
I was going to put one on wearing the Forbidden Door.
love the elite. Hello. But
No,
no.
I think it's going to be a Kenny singles match and a Hung Bucks match at All In.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to be the Hung Bucks dethroning House of Black. And I think that's going to be the next chapter of the Elite story after they're done with the Blackpool Combat Club stuff. And that's going to start there. Maybe some internal stuff with them, and Kenny feeling some kind of way about, oh, so we lost the belts as a trio of us three, but you felt the need to go get them back with Hangman instead of me. So I'm very interested to see if that's the route they go, because there's always turmoil in the Elite. We can never be happy for long.
Oh, of course. Honestly, I was just going to say I thought I would have loved just like running back Young Bucks versus Aussie Open.
I could also see that, yeah.
Just because I missed the Bucks as a tag team. Like, I feel
Me
like I'm
too.
starting to have. It took longer. Like, just how people were having like Kenny singles withdrawals. I'm starting to have like. Don't get me wrong. Love all the trio stuff. Love the Hung Bucks
Yeah.
coming back together. I'm sorry. I think especially with the tag team division not being what I would want it to be in AEW right now.
Same.
I'm just like, Matt and Nick, come save us.
If they don't do the trios route, I would love for the All In match to be some variation of like Young Bucks versus Aussie Open, or Aussie Open versus FTR, or FTR versus Aussie Open versus Young Bucks versus the Lucha Bros. Like, throw them all in. I want tag team wrestling to be on such a high display with the top teams of AEW at All In. That is something I very much want.
But you know what? I realized a card still left to play that wasn't played last year. Well, this year at Wrestle Kingdom was Young Bucks on at return at Wrestle Kingdom to New Japan.
Yeah.
Like Young Bucks versus Aussie Open at Wrestle Kingdom 18 would be extremely poetic, especially if
Mhm.
you have Kenny and Osprey on the card. Um, United Empire versus the Elite, like
Yep.
the faction that really brought New Japan to the world versus the faction that's really keeping them in front of the world
Yep.
right now. Like, so I wouldn't mind if they
There's
were,
a lot. There's a
yeah,
lot that can be done. There's so many different ways they can go, and I'm like convinced that the Elite are like, if they haven't already re-signed, they are re-signing. So there's plenty of time to get into all of this, I feel. But there's just so much you can do, and it's like I'm just so excited to see anything and everything that happens with all of these storylines with these guys, because I love faction wars. So like,
absolutely.
if the Elite go straight from like Blackpool Combat Club to like United Empire, that would be like a solid year of booking that I am just in love with.
And I think that there's like so much story there just because, Aussie Open was the guys that came with, Osprey, when they were originally announced the trio
Yeah,
titles, like, they've been there. Obviously, Kenny's only non-Osprey title defense was against Jeff Cobb
yeah.
for the championship. So, like, hey, there's a
There's a
lot, so
there's a
much,
lot of legs too. Yeah.
there's a lot to do here. So super exciting. Um, All In's going to be a blast.
Mhm.
Honestly, I really think that they should probably move. They should probably make Forbidden Door like a 2 night show. Honestly, maybe that's probably never going to happen now with like Collision, but maybe
Mhm.
you do a Forbidden Door Collision, like a Forbidden Door Collision with a lot of like the lower card New Japan guys, lower card,
Yeah.
just so we can get some dream matches that are probably never going to make a pay-per-view card.
Yeah.
And I think they'll probably move in that direction next year. I know like Collision was super new, just super new this year. So
Yeah.
that makes sense. Getting into the main card, we started off with MJF versus Tanahashi. Um, this was really cool. I think just because MJF has been talking so much shit about New Japan, he always does. He came out in a robe that said New Japan is an indie,
Mhm.
facing the face, the ace, the savior of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Hiroshi Tanahashi. Um, yeah, this match was pretty good. Nowhere near like match of the night. I just it. I will say it is one of the lowest rated matches on Cage Match from the show.
Mhm.
But I feel like people are on Cage Match now. It's not, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was good. I honestly was more frustrated with Max than I was with Tanahashi.
Mhm.
I think Tanahashi's body held up pretty good for this one. He pulled out 2 high flies.
Yeah.
Obviously he slowed down some, we know this, but he performed well, had the crowd into it. Like the crowd was really, really, really hot. Um, I think I was just like, oh, like Max, this is a different type of opponent. Can we get something different? Like, except for like the usual stuff, Dynamite, Diamond Ring,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was okay. It was good.
Yeah, I get your point. Like, it was very formulaic to how Max wrestles, and like my favorite part of the match was honestly like MJF like trying to leave, and Tanahashi getting the crowd to start a coward chant. Like Tanahashi, like this weekend, played into like the US crowds incredibly. Like he fed off of them so much, and that's just like another feather in his cap of like being one of the greatest ever. Like he was just incredible this entire weekend in terms of like his character work, especially.
Absolutely.
But honestly, I have to give Max some props here, and anyone that knows me knows that this isn't something that I enjoy doing. But like he wrestled in a way that meant that Tanahashi could be a star
Yes.
that everyone knows that he is, and he wrestled such a smart match, and like he slowed, not that Max works like that fast of a pace in like his style of wrestling anyways, but he worked around Tanahashi so they could have like an even playing field. And
Absolutely.
I like at the age of 27, like his in-ring like IQ is like kind of astonishing. Like he
Extremely
really
high.
does come into himself. Yeah.
Extremely high. I mean, I think I noticed that, especially with the Adam
In
Cole
the
match.
Adam Cole match.
Yeah, just because I will say, I give him credit. I've seen more so this year than any other time. he is really good at wrestling wrestlers with limitations,
Yes.
and being able to maximize a match around his opponent's limitations. We saw that with Adam
Yeah.
Cole. We saw that with Tanahashi, and so definitely give him credit for that. I think I was more so upset about the finish because it's just like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
I'm so tired of that dynamite diamond ring.
Yeah. It wouldn't be an MJF match if he didn't lean into the things that makes people hate him. So
Of course, I'm interested to see what they actually do with that ring this year. Like he can't win it again. Well,
I honestly, at this point, would be okay with them just retiring it.
I'd be okay too. My thing is like I just don't think that we don't gain anything by him winning it again. So like
Yeah.
unless somebody is going to dethrone him, let's just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
It's
call it
just
the collision diamond necklace or something. I don't care.
yeah.
Yeah,
But it's
just
like with this match, like MJF really was like kind of the perfect person to tell this story with Tanahashi because it was like the guy that dislikes New Japan so much and disrespects it against the ace of the company. So like
Basically New Japan in a human body.
yes, yes, exactly. So I don't know. It was a good matchup, and I thought the match was cool. And yeah, honestly, just props to Max for like this past month, like especially like his in ring work has been top notch. And yeah, I just hope to see more of that from him because I would love to be an MJF fan. I've said it before. If like he does character work that I like, then I could really get behind MJF. But like we'll see what happens in the next
I
few weeks.
I said I don't know like what must have happened, but like Tony has this guy told him he now has to show up to Dynamite Rampage Collision and he has to
Yeah.
do so damn near every week. Don't know what
Hmm.
happened, but like hey, it's cool to like have a champion like this on TV. I feel like I just don't feel like right now he has a choice simply because
Yeah.
you saw that card and you see where we're going for all in. Nobody was really anticipating MJF, like just for
Yeah.
the card, and like that roster is so stacked that if you're not wrestling, if you're not doing something different, and you're on the same roster as a Brian Danielson, a Kenny Omega, an Adam Cole, like all of
Hmm.
these John Moxley, these mega stars who are doing the best. Not only are they mega stars coming into it, these guys are doing the best work of their careers right
Yeah.
now, and I feel like it's so easy to get outshined. And I mean, like he absolutely has been getting outshined, um,
Hmm.
probably since he won the title. And then you have Punk back, and then it's just like he has to show something different
Yeah.
if he wants to be a believable world champion going forward. Or a
100%.
believable star of the company right now, just because everybody is just so good. Like
Yeah.
everybody is so good, and like the over 35 crowd is going crazy in the
Yeah.
race right now. So there's that. Up next, we had what's the second one? Wow, I can't do this. CM Punk versus Satoshi Kojima. 13 minutes of pure insanity from the crowd.
Yeah.
Absolute insanity. You had the boos trying to outweigh the cheers trying to outweigh the boos. Like people were literally plotting on how can I like be as obnoxious as possible during
Hmm.
the match.
Kojima came out of like I was gonna say last night, out of Forbidden Door, like the biggest babyface. Like the crowd reactions he was getting, just for like chopping Punk and like getting back on top, it was insane.
I don't think I've ever heard like a reaction like that for somebody not even actively doing anything. Like,
Yeah.
obviously we've heard the boos for Don Callis, but that's fresh off of him, like, stabbing Kenny Omega in the head with a screwdriver.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever seen just somebody just stand there and like people are losing it, about to riot.
Hmm.
I was like, are we about to riot? Like, is this happening? It's like, is this happening? Insane. I think Punk, he started to tease that heel side of him, really
Yeah.
started to like lean into it. I think I leaned over to you. I said, he loves this shit. I
Yeah.
said, he's eating this up. Like, I think they're teasing it, leaning into that heel work from
Yeah.
him. And I'm gonna be honest, I think CM Punk is a better heel. I think especially right now, just
100%.
lean into the hate. might as well. Like, if we're really gonna make money off of all of this, the never ending brawl out timeline that we're living,
Yeah.
I would love to never hear about again. If we're
Mhm.
really going to commit to it, commit to it. Like, be the bad guy, dude.
Yeah.
Like, good match though.
Mhm.
Really
I
great
enjoyed
stuff
it.
for Kojima. Up next, this was probably my one of my top matches of the card, which isn't saying much because a lot of these matches were my top matches of the card. But the international title four-way match, I didn't realize that this match was that short until I'm looking at the time. It was only 11 minutes, but
Really?
only 11 minutes. That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
Absolutely incredible. Orange Cassidy versus Katsuyori Shibata versus Zack Sabre Jr. versus Daniel Garcia. Everybody shined in this match.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, big props, even though he took the pin, big props to Daniel Garcia.
He
Um,
did not look out of place in this match at all. When
not
you like considering the other talent in it, like you've got Orange Cassidy, who's on the run of a lifetime right now with this international belt run. Shibata, who's just the wrestler. Like
period.
there's like nothing else to say about him really. He's just the wrestler. And then like Zack Sabre Jr., who's like arguably one of the best technical wrestlers in the world. And like
And also,
Daniel Garcia,
the one,
yeah, like and Daniel Garcia did not look out of place in the slightest. Like he held his own in this match and he like meshed well with all of these guys. And I'm so happy for Danny, like the position he's been in recently and like these cool matchups he's getting and like these opportunities. I want to see him win a belt again. I want to see him belted up and doing more, even more on TV and like just really kick off like his neck, like kick him up to the next level because like at 23, he is like I don't want to I don't want to say underrated, but I think he's like one of the more underappreciated guys on the roster because of he has been just incredible for like the past 18 months. He's been absolutely incredible.
absolutely, I'm very proud of him. I think that he's one of those people who like strikes that balance between like the super obnoxious character,
Hmm.
but he's also one of the best pure wrestlers on the roster. Period.
Yeah.
Like, he is amazing in that ring, and he's come such a long way on the mic. And I think that, yeah, I hope personally, I know he wants Shibata. I hope that that's the match for Death Before Dishonor.
Me too.
Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor. Zack Sabre Jr. definitely wants Orange Cassidy in a singles
Yeah.
match. So I hope that match happens. I mean, shout out to Orange Cassidy. I think he and Brian Danielson gave him his flowers, later at the
Yeah.
media scrum. But I truly believe he's been the best champion in the world. Like,
Oh,
any type of
absolutely.
champion. Like, and I really hope that he's in world title contention once he eventually drops that belt.
Yeah.
I think 4 years ago, saying that, oh yeah, Orange Cassidy should be world champion, I think people would have probably laughed at that and be like, that's a joke. But now I don't.
Hmm.
I think pretty much we're all on board of just like, this is one of the faces of the company. Period.
Yeah.
Like, and he's done more, I think, as far as being like keeping AEW up more than just about anybody else this year. I feel like
Hmm.
last year it was John Moxley.
Yeah.
This year it's been 100% Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
100%. He's been basically like that right hand man of the company that Tony, knows he can depend on, knows
Yeah.
is always going to have a solid match. You can throw him in like, and I think that's the thing too. Like, people don't realize, even outside of just his defenses, he still wrestles almost every week, whether it's
Yeah.
in a tag match, 8-man, whatever. Absolutely incredible. Would love to see him face Zack Sabre Jr. Maybe if maybe that is the all-in match if they don't run
It could be.
versus Sabre Jr.
It
Um,
really could be.
so I wouldn't be against that at all. I would love to see it. Orange Cassidy get a big time match at All In. I feel like he deserves it.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about people who
100%.
are real the faces of AEW. He's top 5. Like, he's up there with the Elite and Mox.
Yeah.
As those core members. So this match was awesome.
It was really good.
I loved it. I wanted it to be longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
This was like one of like out of like the two big singles matches. This was like I guess like the fourth match I was like most anticipating because like I was really high on the tag match they had on Dynamite, and I felt
Yes.
like they were holding back a little bit in that, and like this like 11-minute, like I wouldn't call it a sprint, but like they just jam packed so much in, and there was so much chemistry between all the guys, like no matter what, which two were in the ring at the same time, and it was just a great time. I had so much fun with it.
Yes, loved it. Um, and I also this is my last point, but I loved seeing how full circle the Orange Cassidy Shibata story has come. Like
Yes.
this time last year, you know, Shibata saves Orange Cassidy, but nobody expects him to actually ever wrestle again. It was just cool to
Yeah.
see him. Like, you know, it was just one of those moments. It's just everybody's just happy to see him. It's super cool. But then he pops up on Dynamite. He saves Orange Cassidy. And then he has a Rampage match versus Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, he's popping up on Ring of Honor. And then he becomes a champion. And then, like, you know, and
Yeah.
now they finally face off at Forbidden Door and, like, they have this mutual respect for each other. And it was just really awesome to see that story come to full circle, because what people don't realize, Orange Cassidy has not had a lot of feuds since
Yeah.
Pac. Like since Pac, like even though he's had all these defenses, he hasn't had a lot of like direct feuds. And so much of his storytelling is like he just continues to develop his character and become somebody that people want to wrestle. And no matter who you are, the best wrestlers in the world all want to wrestle Orange Cassidy.
Yes.
So I just think that that was super cool to see their story come full circle.
100%.
Moving on, what was the next match? We had Sonata versus Jack Perry. This was a 10-minute sprint. I actually really like this match. I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty high on Sonata. I think
Mm-hmm.
I've liked his reign. I think it's really hard. He's in a very hard position just because it's very clear that New Japan is going in a new direction. And he is
Yeah.
the leader. Like he's the leader. He took the title off of Okada. Obviously, like everything is like being, you know, really redone in New Japan.
Yeah.
He's basically the leader of a brand new faction. And I think he's doing pretty well. I think he presents himself as a star. And also, I love Sonata's moveset. I feel like his moveset is so interesting. Like he can do
Yeah.
like all these different cool things, like his signature moves, his finisher. Like he has like one of the coolest move sets. And I think like he's in a position to where he's one of those guys who's been passed up for opportunities a lot for a lot of his peers who are of similar age, who just might have, you know, been the one in the spotlight, much like Jungle Boy. And
Yeah.
I think that I look back now, I was like, oh, this was the perfect opponent for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed the match. Yeah, both of these guys are super talented. I would have loved for them to get like more time. I wish the crowd probably would have been better for this one, but
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool match. Like I enjoyed it a lot. Like they had like I was like expecting it to be a good match, but they had more chemistry than I was expecting as well. Like Sonata works well with the young boys that he can just like kind of bounce off of. Like we saw it with Suji at Dominion as well.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed this, and obviously the post match angle.
He did.
I'm devastated.
I
Honestly,
liked it.
devastated.
And I think I told you, I said, well, you called it. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
you literally said this, but you know, I will say they did a good job of like cutting suspense because they had cut the camera away. Like we thought they were about to start the previews for you know, the next match, and then like they cut the camera back on to them on the ramp.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, he's about to do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Like I was recording the whole time they walked up the ramp because I was just like, it's coming, it's coming. I know it's coming, and I'm going to capture this moment. And then it happened. I was just like, oh man. I was a little bit surprised they pulled the trigger so quickly, but I'm excited to see what's next for Jack Perry.
I think that, you know, it was just so instinctive. So like he just snapped so quickly
Yeah.
and he did so well. Like I think like he just really leans. I'm like, should he have been a heel this entire time? Like
Mm-hmm.
he just leaned into it so quickly. I loved it. It's so funny. Like during his entrance, when Tarzan Boy and we were all like waving our hands, I was
Yeah.
like, I need to bask in this because I said this was probably the
This
last
is probably
time
the last time. Yeah.
I'll ever hear this entrance like this. So I said, let me just enjoy it because this is it.
Yeah.
And that was just super cool. And I just loved this match. just because
Yeah,
like I
me
think
too.
that it showed like the best about Jack and best about Sonata. I wish it was longer, but love the post
Yeah,
match angle. Um, let's take a break, and
cool.
then we'll get into the rest of the card next with
Sounds good.
the elite
Yes.
versus BCC and friends. So super
Yeah,
exciting stuff.
cool.
You're listening to the Maps and Grabs podcast, and this is a reminder that there is now a merch store available on foryourwear.com for Maps and Grabs. Get all of your merchandise you want to support this podcast. We currently have crew necks, crop tops, and t-shirts available. You can find the website once again at foryourwear.com/maps-grabs. Thank you for supporting the Maps and Grabs podcast. Go ahead and get you yours. All right, and we are back. Just one more thing on the Jungle Boy Sonata match. I thought it was super cool when Jungle Boy stood between not the tunnels, but like the two entrances, and he
Yeah,
acts like he's going out of the face side, and then he does this twist and about face, and he goes
yeah,
in the hillside. I'm like, oh, that I get. He gets it.
yeah.
So that was just a little thing I really like. But next for the fun stuff, 10-man tag, the elite, no, really the Hung Bucks, Adam Page, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, Eddie Kingston, Tomohiro Ishii versus the Blackpool Combat Club, Claudio Castagnoli, John Moxley, Wheeler Yuta, Konosuke Takeshita, and Shota Umino. Wow. Um,
My
let's start with the
goodness.
entrances.
Hmm?
Um, let's start
Yeah,
with the entrances. So I absolutely adore the Hung Bucks entrance. Like when they do the elite and I need them to figure out how to do it with four of them though, because when it was the four of them, they just had the Young Bucks and Kenny stuff. So they need to figure out a way to do Kenny and Hangman, whatever.
mm-hmm.
But it was amazing. Um, I just love being in the crowd whenever they do Carry On Wayward Son. It is amazing. As a person
Yeah,
who was in the room when the elite returned to that song, I think it's just always going to be make me happy to just sing that song with the crowd. But how Hangman, like, oh, that was awesome. They were all in their black and white gear. I did think that we were going to get a new gear from the
mm-hmm.
Bucks, but Denise Cutler has a lot on her plate, so I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if she probably got more involved in the general AEW seamstress role since Miss Sandra just recently retired.
yeah,
Wouldn't be surprised if that was not confirmed or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's been happening. So but I always love that black and white gear.
yeah.
Okada does too. If you saw,
in BTE, yeah.
yeah, that running joke. I love that running joke. That's
It's
always
my
something.
favorite thing.
There's always something to look forward to when Okada gets dressed in Nick Jackson's gear.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I love the elite, the Hung Bucks' entrance, because I'm going to call them the Hung Bucks here. I don't care what Warner
yeah,
Discovery says. Um, Eddie Kingston got one of the biggest pops of the night. Like
yes,
easily, like he's one of the biggest stars in the company. Whether he might not have the so-called look or whatever, but the people have chosen him. The
yeah,
only thing I can really think of it too is like I think compared to it reminds me of like Jamie Hayter when
yeah,
they were doing all those promos and like Britt would be talking and Britt and Soraya would be talking and people would just start chanting for Jamie Hayter. Meanwhile, she's
yeah,
standing in the corner silent, saying absolutely nothing. And to the point where fans were just hijacking every single women's segment until she got a title.
mm-hmm.
And I think we're heading there for Eddie.
Yeah,
It's going to be interesting how much they do with him because obviously he has a G1 coming up.
yes.
So he's only going to be on TV probably for the next 2-3 weeks, if that, before he heads off to Japan. Um,
Well, he's
but
on
oh
the
yeah,
shows on July 4th and 5th, so
he's
we might only get him this week, and then he'll probably, I don't know whether he'll come back and forth from Japan between like those Independence Day shows and the G1 starting, so we might honestly only get another week of Eddie until like August.
yeah, because Mox is also going to be in that weekend going for Korakuen Hall. So yeah, that's a really
He's
good
having
point.
a match against El Desperado.
And not
That's
just
on the second night, and the tag
the
match.
tag
Oh,
match is, I think my thing is, I'm like, you fucking crazy person. Like
yes,
June Kasai and El Desperado versus Homicide and John Moxley is going to be a bloodbath. And
yeah.
then the next day we have El Desperado and John Moxley. Like
Final death.
final death. Their
Like,
first,
what does that even mean?
I don't know. Their first match was already like, bonkers at Music City Mayhem. And I
Mm-hmm.
will say it's really cool to like New Japan. We're basically going to get 2 back-to-back death matches
Yeah.
for New Japan, and so like that's super cool. El Desperado, he said that he's going to make perfect. He said he needs to like do some work just to get the right referees or something. He said no offense to anybody, but read New Japan, you don't know what you're doing when it comes to like
Mm-hmm.
that. So he said, don't worry, I'm going to find a ref. I'm going to find us a crew, all of this stuff like to make sure that everything is perfect. I'm like, these sadistic bastards. I can't wait. Um,
Very
July
excited.
4th and 5th is going to be an absolute treat. But yeah, Tomohiro Ishii came out. I love Ishii. He got
The
the pin
crowd
in
loved
this
him
match.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he got the pin in this match, which is super cool because a lot of times he doesn't get to, especially now
Mm-hmm.
that they didn't bring the belts out this weekend, but Ishii, Tanahashi, and Okada are the current never 6-man champions. And so,
Yeah.
like, in a lot of those matches, Ishii never gets to get the pin. So that was super cool.
This was a
Uh,
really cool moment. Yeah.
but the Blackpool Combat Club entrance, man, 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 man. They came out to Death Rider. I love both Mox and
Yeah.
Penny using their New Japan entrances, like
Yeah.
great. But Death Rider just hit like
Yeah.
so hard in that moment because it's a different vibe you're going for. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's a much different vibe you're going for. Shota Umino, I don't know why he wore his brightest gear.
Oh, it was so funny. Like just like him like stood amongst like the Blackpool Combat Club and Takeshita, just like he stood out like a beacon. And I honestly think it was intentional and kind of a thing of is Shooter in? Is he not? Like what is this dynamic? And I think that is something that's gonna be explored later down the line. So I'm excited for that. But like the entrance was so cool. And honestly, I've gone back and forth whether Takeshi's going to be in Blackpool Combat Club. I still don't think he is, but he fits in like a glove if that is the route
But
they go.
Takeshita looked amazing. Like the leather,
Yes.
the leather. It felt like I've never seen somebody look like that effortlessly cool and badass. It reminds you of like almost like a 90s Scott Hall type of guy. Like
Mhm.
it's just, the leather, like the collars. It's just, it
Yeah.
was insane. He looked like he fit like a glove. Like I too don't know if he's going to be in BCC. But I think, I do think that BCC, I wouldn't mind them adding a member by the end of the
Yeah.
year. Um, so yeah, I think it's super.
Especially if Brian does end up being kicked out, which is something that's been telegraphed a little bit. Like, if you've been following the story, like, it does kind of feel like if they're going to lose a guy, Brian is going to be the one that's going to be either kicked out of the group or leave the group. I think it's going to be more that they turn on him, and we're going to get a Brian Mox feud maybe early next year. So, exciting stuff.
And I also think that there's also one plot line that hasn't been explored that was slightly teased specifically for Super Card of Honor. What
Mm,
happens with Nigel McGuinness? I think
yeah,
that is a huge, especially heading into All In. Maybe we'll learn
yeah,
more about that. But I think that there's a story there, obviously between Nigel, Brian, Claudia. Like I feel like there's a story there. And I remember in Super Card of Honor, they asked him on commentary, like, Brian, Nigel, are you interested in being a part of the Blackpool Combat Club?
mm,
And it's like, I need to feel them out first. I need to, like, look around and,
yeah,
get to know. John Moxley continues to be the best father in pro wrestling. Uh, him and his young boys.
yeah,
Uh, Shota and obviously like that's been a story too. I think specifically with Shota and Mox of just how Shota clearly respects John Moxley and admires him, but he's been trying
yeah,
to prove to everyone, specifically like Okada, that he's his own man. Um,
yes.
just because Okada has been picking on him and every other person under 30. Um, about, well, you're being outshined by your mentors and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of great storylines there. I just, yeah, love that entrance. Death
Yeah.
Rider does it for me every time. Um,
Yes.
the actual match, incredible. 10 out of 10. Like the thing is, that was a 5-star match. Like I
Yes.
100% believe like that was a 5-star match, and it's just like this has been a huge, amazing, incredible year for multi-man wrestling. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think trios, we've seen some I this year alone, I think I've seen some of the best trios matches,
Yeah.
or 8-man matches, 10-man matches that I've ever seen in my entire life. And
Yeah.
for those of us who grew up as WWE fans, I'm gonna be honest, it took me a long time to get around the 6-man trios as a belt or as a division concept, just because
Mm-hmm.
6-man tags give me PTSD. Gave me PTSD so long. I just hear Teddy Long's voice in my head saying, "There's gonna be a 6-man tag team match,
Yeah.
and you're gonna go with the Undertaker player." And I literally just hear that voice in my head. Like it took me a long time to wrap my head around it. Now I
Yeah.
love trios wrestling. I love factions. I just love all of this. And I think that this year, what we've seen a lot of guys be very selfless. A lot of big time guys be very selfless to be in teams this year.
Yeah.
Mox is one. Okada's one. Like I mean, Okada's been huge for trios wrestling this year.
Yes.
Kenny's one. Danielson is one.
Switchblade,
Claudio's
like more
one.
recently as well.
Absolutely. Like we've seen a lot of top guys. I mean, even if you want to factor him in, Punk as well. Like
Yeah.
we've seen trios and larger wrestling be elevated to a completely different level in 2023. And I think a lot of that comes from a lot of the, top guys are really,
Mm-hmm.
you know, forming teams and stuff. And I think can, especially like on a card like Forbidden Door, when you had it balanced out where you had like, okay, some of the stars are having singles matches, but I feel like people like John Moxley, Hangman Page felt just as important in that
Yes.
tag team match as they would have in a singles match. And I think that's
Yeah.
always what you want with your top guys.
100%. Because there
Yeah.
was like so many story layers to this match going in, and it like lived up to every expectation that I had, and they were high because again, anyone that knows me knows that the Elite is like my favorite, like just my favorite group of wrestlers. Period. Like ever. And it was just getting to be in the building for like such a star-studded 10-man tag with so many wrestlers that I like, not even just on the Elite side, like with the Blackpool Combat Club as well. Like I love every wrestler in this match, and it
Mm-hmm.
was just incredible. There was some insane spots in this, and like the reactions, like because we knew that like a lot of the guys would get big reactions anyways, so like the reaction that Ishii got like tonight and on Dynamite as well, like it just makes me so happy that like the crowds have been so like loving to him, because like he's late in his career as well and still putting on like these incredible performances, and like him getting the pin like in the match, it was just an amazing moment for him, I think. And I was just, I don't even know how to put into words how much I loved this match. Like you saw, like because we were
Yeah,
sat together,
like
like my
literally,
reaction after it, I was just
Charlie
speechless. I
was
was like,
silent for a solid 5
yes.
after the match. Like me, I'm talking about it and just like, man, that was so great. She's just sitting there with her hands
I
covered her
was
mouth, like,
like
oh
this.
my god. I was just like,
No, I
oh
was
my
like welling up. I was like so
no,
overwhelmed after.
yeah,
I
the
was like
tears were
basically
definitely,
crying.
yeah, the tears were definitely in your eyes. I was like, oh yeah, they did it, they did it, they did it.
Hmm.
Um,
And then
and
Willow's
then
theme hit. I was like, this is such a roller coaster.
yeah, like you literally were silent through the entire video package
Hmm.
through the between the matches. But no, it was absolutely insane. And you know what was so cool about it was that it was the matchups that I think people weren't going into it exciting for that really stole the night. Of
Yeah.
course, like we knew Mox and Eddie were going to have something. We knew Hangman Takeshita were going to have something. We
Yeah.
knew that the Bucks and Claudio and Wheeler Yuta were going to go at it. But Takeshita and Ishii was my
My God.
favorite. Like I think dude, he knocks him out. Like I
Just like
walked
that.
away from that match saying we need if that's the
Yes.
singles match next year, or like, or anytime, I'm here for it. Bring Ishii on
Yes,
Dynamite, like Takeshita versus Ishii. I feel
absolutely.
like those two had, I mean, they
It
had
was insane.
insane chemistry. And like that, like I said, that wasn't one of the, the matchups that the
Yeah.
pairings that we were expecting to steal the show, but my God, they did.
Yeah.
They
I think
absolutely.
my favorite moment of the match was like Mox and Eddie stood in the middle, just going blow for blow as like all of the chaos went on
All hell
around
breaks
them.
loose, and they're
Like
just,
the
I mean,
Bucks are jumping off the top rope, like Hangman hit the Orihara moonsault, like there was just so much going on, and they were just exchanging blows and chops like back and forth, and it's like this match needs to be a pay-per-view match. Like build the story, let it simmer through like all the rest of the BCC Elite stuff, and I think do it at All In. Not even just because I'm biased, but because that is a stadium worthy match.
absolutely. Um, you have literally some of the best wrestlers in the world all together, and
Yeah.
they have multi-man chemistry. I think we've seen a lot of times you can put great wrestlers in a big tag team match, and that doesn't mean that you're gonna have a great match. Like
Yeah.
that. Some people just don't have that chemistry. Some people are really just singles wrestlers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and but these guys are just nuts, man. Like they're
Yeah.
just awesome, and I just enjoyed this match. I felt like this was a true treat. Obviously, Danielson, Okada, and Kenny and Osprey were the big selling points, but
Mm-hmm.
honestly, you could have, if you told me that that was one of the main events, I could have gone home happy. Like I really could have gone home happy
Absolutely.
after that match.
Yeah.
And I was, I think I told you we have more.
Mm-hmm.
There's
I was
more.
like after that match, I was just like so like overwhelmed, and it like really hit me in that moment of I'm genuinely witnessing one of the best nights of professional wrestling ever live and
Absolutely.
in the building. Like it really hit me after that match happened, and like you said, I was just silent for a good 5 minutes. And I think I can't remember what I tweeted. I think I tweeted something like I'm never gonna recover from seeing that live. And I
Yeah, that's
genuinely don't
exactly what
think
you
I
said.
will. It
Yeah,
was
I think
just so good.
I think it's because there's been so many great multi-man matches, like
Mm,
Dominion, Resurgence, All Together Again, Anarchy in the Arena, and I've been in the building for none of them.
hmm.
And so to finally be there for one
Yeah.
of these all-out wars, I think that's the difference between this time last year, BCC versus JAS. I feel like the steam died off like right after Double or Nothing.
Yeah.
Right after Forbidden Door, because I think like the Forbidden Door stuff that was still left was really good with
Hmm.
Eddie teaming up with like Shota and Wheeler, but right after Forbidden Door, like it was just like I don't really care to see this ever again. Like
Yeah.
you know, well no, I'm lying. After Blood and Guts, because that was the same week. But after that, it was just like okay, we're done. Now,
Yeah.
like with this BCC elite stuff, I genuinely these guys could fight for the rest of the year, and you would not hear me
Yes.
complain.
There's still so much left for them to do. Like it really does feel to me because this started in like March, so it really does feel to me that we're only just hitting like the third chapter of it, or like even like the second chapter. Like there's still so much left, and I'm so grateful to be able to witness all of this and to see such a big part of it at Forbidden Door live. Like being such a big like elite fan that I am, is like that Hungbucks entrance. I was literally just stood there like this, like recorded. I was going through it. I was having
Yeah,
some real
and I
moments.
came out and like I wore my hangman outfit, so I was just
Yeah.
like, I'm so happy. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, this. It's so funny. I called my mentor from when I got back from the airport, and I was just like, I remember when you encouraged me to get a passport, and I just want to say thank you because I just had the best
Mm-hmm.
weekend of my life. Just had the best weekend of my life.
Oh,
Um,
incredible.
but yeah, so that match was super awesome. Obviously, we got a lot coming forward. I next was the women's world title match. I feel like good match. I wish I looking back, I really wish that they had put this right after MJF Tanahashi, just
Yeah.
because putting the women's match right after that 10-man tag was just unfair. A lot of people got up, to go to the
Mm-hmm.
bathroom. I mean, in some ways it's understandable, but good guys, you always do that during
Yeah.
the women's match, and it's so annoying. But really good match. I wanted a little bit of more of a surprise or something. Like,
Mhm.
I think obviously Willow and Tony are always good. Tony Storm is just solid. The only woman to ever compete in not one but two Forbidden Doors.
Yeah.
Um, Willow is a great, New Japan Strong Women's Champion. Obviously, I think that they did the dirty finish, the rake eyes, to like trying to protect her. Um, Good match. I just feel like it should have been placed probably earlier on the card.
Yeah.
Um, because following that 10 man was
Yeah.
almost impossible.
It's like following that 10 man would have been difficult for any talent, but I feel like putting the women on after was like a bit detrimental like to the match itself. Like you put that on like at any other point in the card, I feel like not that the crowd wasn't into it, but I feel like more people would have stayed like in to watch it because
Exactly.
there was a flood of people that left. Which like I get it, we're 5 matches deep, we've still got like 4 to go and like 2 really big matches still to come. Like I
And people are
understand,
going to be long.
yeah, like you need to pick and choose your moments. Like my moment, like I left like a little bit before the end of the 6 man, just before the main
Mm.
event, because like you have to pick your moments, and it was just unfortunate that this ended up being the moment for a lot of people. But for the match, I really enjoyed the match. I thought it was really good. I just wish there was like a little bit more to it, and I don't know whether that was just because of the placement on the card or whether like things had to be reworked because of everyone was like kind of anticipating Mercedes for Forbidden Door like before she got injured, and I don't know. I enjoyed it, and like I'm happy for the women that they got to be on the card and that they got to have such a cool matchup, and it didn't feel out of place. I
Oh,
just wish
absolutely
that
not.
was like a little bit more, like a little bit of something else.
I think those were the two perfect stars that if those are well, that's what you have to
Yeah.
work with. Those are, I mean, great representatives. Somebody obviously in the media scrum later said that Tony Storm was wearing her stardom gear, which
Mhm.
I was like, oh yeah, this is her stardom stuff. But she said it was like, not, it was just a coincidence. Maybe it was, maybe
Yeah.
it wasn't. But super cool stuff.
Mhm.
I like I said, I'm interested to see what's next for the women, especially with a possible blood and guts coming up. I think
Yes.
this outcast thing has dragged on so long with no
Mhm.
payoff in sight. Obviously, we have Britt versus Ruby this week in the Owen Hart Women's Tournament. The winner will face Sky Blue, who's been on a great run.
Yeah.
Just interested to see what happens next.
Me too.
Um, I think, oh yeah, this is it. So next we have, in my opinion, match of the fucking decade. Um, IWGP US Heavyweight Championship match. Will Ospreay with Don Callis
Mhm.
versus Kenny Omega.
What, like, how do you even put it into words? They both use like the entrances. They both use their New Japan themes, which was just incredible to be there for that. Like, it
Ospreay's
felt
Titantron.
huge.
Ospreay's Titantron was beautiful. Like
Yeah.
with him watching all of the TVs and literally
Yeah.
the screens are just like, him getting battered by Kenny
Mhm.
over and over and over again. Um, Coming out with Don Callis, like the heat was huge. Um, I don't have enough. I don't have the words. Like me personally, like Kenny Omega is my favorite wrestler. I will say after Wrestle Kingdom, I think Will Ospreay became one of my favorite wrestlers,
Mhm.
and I that match really made. I don't think I would be in content creation or like being this involved in wrestling if it wasn't for that match. That was
Yeah.
the first time I really ever stayed up for a Wrestle Kingdom, and like in the middle, and it just I feel like that first match changed my life in a lot of ways
Yeah.
to the point to where I was just like, I don't care if I don't have the money, I don't care how this happens, but I need to be in the building. And when I originally I didn't even know if it was going to be the Forbidden Door match, but I said
Mhm.
I am going to book tickets for every big show possible until I see Omega Osprey again.
Yeah.
And man, did it deliver! Like,
It was just.
and I was scared at first because I was just like, I know they're good. Like I know
Mhm.
they're good. But I was just like, that first match was essentially perfect. Like I don't know what they're gonna do. And like, sometimes what I was really worried about is that obviously this is a North American crowd, and like
Yeah.
it's not that New Japan. Yeah, obviously it's a New Japan show, but it's not that exact New Japan feel. Like, it's
Yeah.
not. We're not in Osaka Joe Hall.
Hmm.
So I was wondering if that was going to affect anything. But good God, like the way they adapted and like they made that match feel completely different from the first one.
Yeah.
They used the fact that they weren't in Japan to their advantage. Like I feel like there's moments that you don't get without that crowd. You don't get without that.
Yeah.
You don't get without. It was just absolutely incredible. Just
I
amazing.
just there was just so many moments in the match because like when uh Justin Roberts announced that 30 minutes had passed, I was like, what?
Oh my
They've
gosh!
been wrestling for 30 minutes?
Yeah, we looked at each other. 30 minutes has passed, and you want to know what's
I thought
crazy?
it'd been 15. Like,
When I watched the match back today, I was it caught me off guard again when he
yeah.
says 30 minutes has passed. I was like, how is that not 12 minutes?
Hmm.
I think that
It was,
their pacing is excellent. These
yeah.
two are the best in the world, and I realized like one thing about Kenny Omega is that he's been very upfront about like these singles matches. He's not just giving them away at this point. Like,
Yeah.
and I honestly like for me, I think this was better than Omega Okada 4. Um,
Hmm.
and that's saying a lot. Like that's saying a lot, but for him to put his body through that and to do that, that means that he really, really, really believes in Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
Like he really believes that Will Ospreay is the next best wrestler in the world, if not current. And so,
Yeah.
and I think very few people could rise to the occasion like that, and Will Ospreay did. And I think it's just such a different match. I think it was just so many emotions. I think one thing that really endeared me was the press conference before Wrestle Kingdom, and I think the press conference after Wrestle Kingdom, and just the emotion and Will Ospreay. You can literally see that
Yeah.
he's mentally breaking. Like this is like he's falling apart, and like you can tell, like yeah, he put all his chips in this basket. Like he wanted to
Yeah.
win. It was it was incredible, and I was even telling my friends this afterwards of like neither of these guys are like hardcore wrestlers. They're not
Hmm.
John Moxley. Like, like they don't
Yeah.
use weapons in every match. They don't bleed in every match. Like these are very much so like, pure wrestlers. And the fact that they're getting like this gruesome, like this
Yeah.
sadistic, like man, like only them. Like only
Only
them
them. Yeah.
could have
It's
pulled that off.
like the match itself was incredible, and there was just so many spots. Like the one winged angel kick out at one. Like obviously we all know what that's a callback to, and like what that's referencing, and I popped huge for that. Like my video of that's so funny because I just screamed so loud in it. But like I think my absolute favorite moment was like as much as like because I tweeted about this too. Like Osprey was getting booed and heckled throughout that entire match, and he was like really leaning into it as well. He was like really feeding off of the Canadian crowd. But like as soon as he won, the standing ovation that they both got and like
Absolutely.
the amount of respect that the entire crowd was showing them was just like one of those moments that makes me really proud as a wrestling fan because like we all know like how incredible that was and like what we had just witnessed and the amount of history we had just witnessed and like no one I like people were probably like sad that Kenny lost the belt, but like after that match, everyone was just showing their respect, and it was just incredible to be part of.
I agree. That moment was really special for me too, because I think that you know Osprey did all the heel things, like all the most
Mhm.
heelish things that you can possibly think of. Obviously, Kenny got his in too, but especially Osprey. And like as we've seen on AEW TV recently, like Don Callis gets more heat than just about anybody, and like
Yeah.
he just I don't want to say he's the shadow, but like he sometimes can be the focal point. But like
Yeah.
even with him out there, like that match, these two guys were 100% the focal point. Like
Yes.
he didn't take the spotlight away or anything. Like it genuinely felt like a war. Like it genuinely felt
Mhm.
like a war. And yeah, it was just super special because like that was wrestling history.
Mm-hmm.
Of just so many people just feeling grateful. Like we just witnessed one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time. Like
Yeah.
if not the greatest. Like I mean, like that was a. I love all the discourse behind the Tiger Driver 91 because y'all are so
Mm-hmm.
unserious. Y'all are such
Yeah.
unserious. Like, guys, Masawa is in heaven smiling right now. Like,
100%.
this was, I mean, absolutely beautiful, just incredible. I always like one thing about Kenny matches specifically for me is that like they almost feel like spiritual experiences. It's like I don't
Yeah.
always feel, especially like his big matches, they don't feel like wrestling matches. It really feels like art. Um,
Mm.
like have you ever heard like Andrea Bocelli?
No.
Okay, so like I think he was on what The Voice or something, some music competition show, but he was like the singer that was found, and he like sings opera, and like when he
Mm-hmm.
sings, like people start crying just because it's just so beautiful, this beautiful
Yeah.
opera, and that's how I feel when Kenny wrestles. Like
Yeah.
it's just like it's beautiful, it's art, like
Yeah.
it's great, and I think Osprey has gotten there of just like the emotion he displays in his matches. Like, man, like I think that's what separates him from everybody else. Like, a lot of guys can do great moves,
Yeah.
but good God, I mean, like when he wrestles, especially when he wrestles like type Kenny, I feel and I believe everything he's saying and doing. Like
Yeah.
every single thing. Maybe it's because he uses excessive curse words. I don't know. Like I feel it. Like I feel
Yeah.
it. Like he makes me feel. And I think like that's what we're missing sometimes in wrestling today. Like because we have a lot of guys who can do great spots. You
Yeah.
know, great spots, great wrestling moves, but like these guys make you feel
Yeah.
everything. Like we went from like so many range of emotions from extreme happiness to laughing when you know the kid
Yeah.
is flipping him off to genuine fear of like are they gonna live through
Mm-hmm.
it? Disgust to Will Ospreay licking the blood, or we have like just genuine awe, gratitude, like you know
Yeah.
sadness is over, or you know just the range of emotion that we felt.
They
It was,
just took us on a journey.
and this was
It was
also
just a
longer.
beautiful
This yeah,
match.
this was also longer than the first match. So
Yeah.
uh, they clocked out at 39:50.
Yep.
39:50. So the longest match on the card. Man, like we got that on North American soil. Not American soil, but North American soil. In Kenny's home country, like
Mm-hmm.
Will Ospreay wiping his ass and like cleaning his nose with a Canadian flag. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God. What?
Yeah.
Insane. Like
Just,
the kid doing the cleaner pose, like
yeah.
it was yeah.
Just magical. It was just genuinely magical.
If you hate that match, I don't know what to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
I will
And
also
like
say
wrestling's subjective, but that was
wrestling
just
is subjective, but I do think like guys, and I don't want to hear this shit next year. So I'm saying this now, like Forbidden Door. If you're just a casual wrestling fan, like one of those wrestling fans that don't actually like wrestling, Forbidden Door is not for you.
mm-hmm.
Forbidden Door is not for you. Real graps only. This
Yes.
is where the real wrestlers like. This is not a promo heavy show. This is not a big sport entertainment heavy show. Like this is real wrestling. Like you know, like,
Yeah.
and this is one of the only pay per views where you know, like, I think that is strictly catered to what just wrestling fans want of
Yeah.
just the actual matches of like not the in between angles. And you know what, I ended up because I went back and forth with myself of just like, oh, like I would have loved a Mercedes debut. I would have loved a Kota
Yeah.
Ibushi debut. I would have loved all these different elements. But I realized like a lot of the, I wouldn't have wanted any of those things to be the story coming out of that show. Like, you
Yeah.
know, it's like, you know, because I feel like, you know, that even, it happens all the time if you'll just have one big return and that's the moment. I love that the moment of the nights were the wrestling. Like that was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
yeah. 10 out of 10, 100 out of 10. I'm
Yep.
really happy I've been in the room, was able to be in the room. I don't know what I have to do to get to Japan for Wrestle Kingdom 18, but we're gonna go for it. Because yeah, that was insane.
Yes.
Moving on, we had Darby Allin, Sting, and Tetsuya Naito versus Minoru Suzuki and Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. I think that this was a really good match to follow. Omega Osprey, simply
Mhm.
because, like, you're always going to one. You're going to get the crowd to get up for Judas. You're going to get the crowd to get
Yeah.
up for Kaze Ninore. Um, everybody's going to get up for Sting, and you're going to get people to get up for Naito. Like, this was one of those matches to where, like, even if the actual match was bad, people were just so excited to see the people in it.
Yeah.
Or, like, it didn't really matter. And I think I just was so grateful to just be there. Like, we saw Sting, Jericho, Suzuki, and Naito in the same ring. Like, all these guys are
It's
faces
insane.
of their particular promotions, generations. Like, that was just beautiful as a wrestling fan, of just like, to just never take that for granted. Like, that was just
Yeah.
super cool. Seeing all these storylines interject of, like, Jericho, Naito, you have, you know, Sting there, Suzuki and Jericho have been teaming up. Obviously, Sammy and Jericho have their drama that's been happening. It was just beautiful to see, like, to where, I'll be honest, I don't really care about, you have freaking Sting going through tables and popping back
Yeah.
like it's nothing. Um, where I think that I'm just really appreciative for the relationship between AEW and New Japan. Like, I just felt so blessed, and I don't take that for granted. Like, I
Yeah.
don't take that for granted. Like, yeah, I learned my lesson because I was in the room for Ring of Honor Final Battle. Ended up being Jay Briscoe's last match. You never know
Yeah.
when is your last time you're going to be able to see something, or see
Yeah.
somebody. And just being in the room, like, for all of these legends, these faces of their generations and their promotion together. Crazy. Like you said earlier, I think Jericho Sting is probably going to end up being the All In match, which is going to be
Mhm.
insane, because obviously Jericho is loved in the UK, but Sting is loved,
So so loved.
not even just from the his WCW days, but from his TNA days as well. Like,
Yeah.
Sting is so loved, and as he confirmed at the media scrum, it's not going to be his retirement match, but
Mhm.
it's going to be incredible. He's 64, jumping off of shit, going
Crazy.
through shit. Like, Suzuki's in his 50s, Jericho's in his 50s, Naito's in his 40s. Like, we're just blessed, man. They just have been there. And like I said,
Yeah.
perfect match to go between the two big matches. Um, because there's guys in there that people are going to get up for regardless.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Like, I missed the end of it, but like for what I did see, it was like a really fun match. And honestly, shout out to Darby and Sammy as well, because like they were the young boys in this, and they did their part, and they like did the spots that they needed to, and they just like let the moments breathe for like the legends in the match. And it was just like one of those matches. It's like, this is something I never expected to see, but it's really cool to see it.
Absolutely. And I think that for them, like, that, like, that has to be an honor of just like,
Yeah.
sometimes, I think, who said this? I think Lance Storm did this, but like, everybody doesn't have to be world champion for their experience as a wrestler to be meaningful. Like, I think that was one of those moments that anybody would have been proud, or
Yeah.
happy to be in that position. Like, and so yeah, I think that was a really great opportunity. And I will say, like, AEW did a really, really good job of putting the young guys in positions to succeed. Darby,
Yeah.
Sammy, Wheeler Yuta,
Yeah.
Dave Garcia,
Yeah.
were all in really, 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 really important matchups, doing really great things. And so, super exciting. Shota Umino on the New Japan side,
Mhm.
just really great stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, love to see them. Last but not least, Bryan Danielson versus Okada. And I feel like we can't talk about this without starting with the entrance. Final Countdown return.
Because his like Titan Tron came up, And I turned to you and I was just like, oh my God, it's final countdown. Like the music hadn't even hit yet.
I couldn't even like, and the thing is like mentally, I knew already and I heard you, but like, I think I was just too stunned to speak. Like, I was like, no fucking way. We're here for the first time. That final countdown has been played for Bryan Danielson since he left Ring of Honor to go to WWE.
Yes.
That's nuts. Like, that is absolutely insane. When that happened,
just, oh my God.
That means last time that song was played, when did he leave to go to WWE? 2009?
Yeah, it was like late 2000s, early 2010s. I can't remember exactly when.
Yeah. I was like 11 or 12. I'm 25.
Yep.
That's nuts. Like, that is absolutely insane. And
the crowd reaction.
And to find out that he didn't know either, I think was even cooler in the media scrum. It was just beautiful. Like I said, I was telling my friends this. Forbidden Door 23 was such a bucket list, a wrestling fan bucket list like type of show.
Yeah.
Like, if you were there, you get to always say that you were there, like you were in the room of just like, it must just be, it was spectacular just to be in that room. Just
it was like having Final Countdown, like having that hit and then hearing the crowd sing along to it for the first time on such a big scale, and then immediately having the coin drop, and then like what, 5 minutes, the money raining down, and not even 5 minutes into the like match, people were chanting, "You're gonna get your fucking head kicked in." It was just moment after moment after moment.
Actually, that was the question that I was going to ask Brian if I had gotten a chance to, because I was going to be like, since you got to AEW, I know you've been wanting fans to do the chant, but we
tried at Revolution, like me, Alexia, and Owen. We tried, but
I guess people just don't know it or something.
Yeah,
this is the first time that the chant has been successfully done. You're gonna get your fucking head kicked in.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Like, I think, and the thing is, it wasn't the best match of the night. Like,
yeah,
probably maybe second or third, but wasn't the best match of the night. Wasn't better than Ospreay or Omega by any means. However, Danielson Okada, the vibes alone, like the vibes alone of being to say, like, man, we got the money rain, we got the countdown, we got the chant, you're gonna get your fucking head kicked in, we got the yes chant.
It's just
Bryan Danielson just a seizure. That was insane. That was insane.
That was nuts. That was literally nuts.
There was
just like the whole match. Like, I don't think it was best match of the night. I think it was like my third favorite match of the night. But there was so many moments in it that made it like, it was just a historic moment in wrestling, like just on paper, because it's two of the best wrestlers in the world in a ring together, main event in the biggest show of the year, like in terms of like for both of the companies, like the biggest shows of the year so far. And like the match itself was really fucking good, and like there's probably more they could have done, but obviously Bryan broke his arm, he's going to be out for God knows how long, and if they ever have a rematch, I think the rematch will probably be better. But to say I was in the room for Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada, it's just, you don't get a lot of moments like that as a wrestling fan, and this was one of them. I'm just gonna remember forever, because it was just
your cap. Yeah,
it was just, I don't even have the words for it. Like, I don't have the words I say after going on like a minute long rant, but like it was just,
I haven't gotten to rewatch that one, so I'm gonna rewatch that one today. And I'm almost positive that match probably did show up better on TV. I think technical wrestling shows up better on TV. Honestly, now that I think about it, technical wrestler showed us up better on TV. So I'm excited.
And at that point in the night, we were so tired as well. And like we knew we had the media scrum coming after us. So, and it was like almost midnight. And like obviously I was like still into the match. I was like so in awe watching it.
Absolutely.
Like, I feel like rewatching it, I'm probably gonna like it even more.
Exactly.
So I'm excited to rewatch it.
Yeah, they went This one went 27 minutes and 47
Mhm.
seconds. Yeah, this was insane. Like it was just insane. I don't think I ever got over the shock value of Bryan Danielson versus Okada. I don't think I like
Yeah.
a lot. It was like hard. I think especially after being there all night, like just being like Bryan Danielson is wrestling Okada right here in
Yeah.
front of me. I'm here. And then later, like when we got the money, like one of the
Yeah.
books, like actually holding it in my hand and looking at
Mhm.
it, it's just like, oh, this was real.
Yeah.
This happened. Like this
Yeah.
is a thing. It happened. I mean, like we really were spoiled. Like we were spoiled all weekend long. Like
Mhm.
we got 4 out of at least the top 5 best wrestlers in the world in just 2 matches.
Yep.
It's 4 out of the 5 out of the legitimate best wrestlers in the
Yep.
world. Some of the best wrestlers of all time. Not even just in the world today, but
Yep.
4 of the best wrestlers of all time wrestled in front of us and
Yep.
in marquee matchups. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that.
No.
Like,
God, it was just. It was so. I will never take this weekend for granted. Like as a
Okada
fan, as
tapped.
huh?
Okada
Okada tapped.
tapped.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about that. Like
Yeah, we didn't even
Okada
talk about
tapped
that.
out.
It
It
happened
was
so.
nuts.
You know what's so crazy? Like, I looking back and finding out that the match was 27 minutes long. It really shocks me because when that happened, I was like, we just started.
Yeah.
When he tapped, I'm like, but the match
Like
just
you
started.
could feel it with like the whole crowd reaction. No one was expecting it to end yet. Like when he tapped out, everyone was just like, "Oh my god!" Like, oh, because I was expecting Okada to win.
Me
So like the
too.
fact, the fact that Brian won was already a shock, and then he won with a submission that he couldn't even really properly lock in because he had a broken arm, and we weren't even 30 minutes into the match, which is insane to say. But I was expecting like 45 minutes. Like I was
Absolutely.
expecting this to go longer than Osprey, Omega, and then it didn't, and I was just like, oh my gosh! Like I'm kind of thankful that it didn't because I was so tired. But
Yeah. We would have been in the scrum until 3 a.m.
yeah,
But yeah, absolutely insane. Like when he tapped, it reminded me of like Revolution. Like when Mox tapped the Hangman, I
yeah,
was because you know
and I was in
everybody's
the
like,
building for that too. Like.
yeah, you've had an incredible year.
Oh, it's been nuts. It's been nuts.
uh,
And there's still more to come. So
Still more to come. I'm still trying to figure out: am I going to make that very, very bad decision to try to go to All Out as well? We
I
shall.
was I was thinking about this earlier and I was looking at flight prices and if I like split the payments it's not that bad.
I'm gonna like listen. I'm still on. I'm on like 2 payment plans right now for
Same.
wrestling flights. And like I still have to book my flight to Japan. Uh, and that's what I look back now. It makes sense that Brian won if they run it back at Wrestle Kingdom because it makes sense
Yeah.
for Okada to win at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
So insanity. Just absolute insanity. I can't believe like this is all happening. That happened right in front of us. Bryan Danielson tapped out Kazuchika Okada in front of us. That was insane.
Yeah.
Like I think I said this to you. I said we're in a foreign country right now, watching
Yeah.
Okada and Danielson. That's nuts.
I think I have that moment recorded as well because I was just like I recorded like because I was posting clips of the matches like throughout the night for like for my Twitter and I think I was recording when that happened and like I was just so blown away that it had happened. I was like, what? He tapped out Okada and like we shouldn't be shocked about Brian winning because he's like one of the best in the world, but it was
He's
just
Bryan Danielson. It was just how
he's
it happened.
Brian Danielson. Yeah, it just like it felt out of nowhere, even though they'd already been wrestling for like 30 minutes, which I think is like a testament to those guys and how well paced the match was and just how incredible it was. And I love wrestling. We
I
are
do.
spoiled.
Very spoiled. And I mean, like, especially now, like with Bree posting the pics of his actual
Mm-hmm.
break, I'm like, you're fucking bonkers. I
Yeah.
can't believe like he actually like that's a real break.
Yeah.
That's a break.
Mm-hmm. That's no fracture like he was talking about in the scrum. Like that is snapped.
That's a break. So I don't know. knowing him, he's a madman. I don't know what kind of witchcraft he's going to do to get to be at All In,
Mhm.
but I believe he's going to do it.
Yeah.
I've learned to never bet against Brian Danielson. I remember crying during his retirement speech in WWE,
Mhm.
and he always finds a way. So
Yeah.
yeah, super excited. Yeah, that was super cool. Can't wait to rewatch that match. I think I'm going to have a
Yeah.
completely new perspective on it. Um, super cool stuff. The
Mhm.
scrum.
Yep.
Um, were there? I'm trying to think of any highlights. Oh, Jericho coming in, swinging the water bottle, accidentally
If I
hitting
wasn't awake, still awake at that point, that woke me
that
right
woke.
up because
I think that
he
woke us up.
was swinging that bat around, and I just started laughing because I'm a nervous giggler, and I was like my nerves were like still settling because of Sting and Darby were like the first people in the scrum, and
Mm.
this was my first time doing a scrum, so like my nerves were still settling, and that first bang of the bat just set me off, and I was just sat there like this, just giggling the entire time because I didn't know what to do.
And I'm like fumbling with my phone trying to like
Yeah.
record, and like I was also so in shock because first of all, you the scrum starts and you're in and you like it's already weird to be in there with Tony, but you start off and you're in the same room as Sting.
Yeah.
So like I am 10 feet away from the icon Sting
Yeah.
of the same Sting that I watched growing up in TNA, not WCW because WCW folded when I was like 2. But
Mhm.
absolutely just that's already enough. And then Jericho comes in. He's like, "You're gonna get the Painmaker." I'm like,
Mhm.
"Whoa!" He said, "It's not your business to get into what me and Naito got going on." And they're like, "Stuff." And then Tony's like, "This is unacceptable of how to act at a media scrum." And I'm like, "Tony, you're hilarious, Tony. You are hilarious.
Mhm.
You're hilarious." That was cool. Who's next? Tony Storm. Tony Storm did
Yes.
a great. I love her heel scrums now. Like
Yeah.
she's really good. I got to ask her a question. That was fun.
Yep. Me
Um,
too.
and what else? Osprey. Osprey. I listen. Osprey sometimes he puts his foot in his mouth, but
Mhm.
I genuinely really like him. I think that
Yeah.
his passion for pro wrestling just shines through.
Yeah.
Like you can tell he really loves it and he really cares about it and he wants to advance professional wrestling. And I just have so
Yeah.
much respect for that, for somebody being so young but feeling that sense of responsibility. Because like we've seen other people around his age who might be stars, but they have no intention of like elevating the business. Like a lot of people are
Yeah.
really just looking to elevate themselves, but he genuinely cares about professional wrestling. And I think also just seeing the storytelling of the smile on his face, um, it really like made me warm up inside because it's just like you can tell what that match meant to him and like what Kenny meant. Like, those guys have said a lot of crazy stuff about each other, but I can tell like
Yeah.
they really respect each other at the
Yeah.
end of the day. Um, just super cool stuff. And like I love that he puts over Brit Rest every
Yeah.
chance he gets,
Yeah.
especially Rev Pro. He even put over the match with Shingo. Super excited
Yeah.
about that, man. Yeah, it really made me it made my heart warm as a wrestling fan. And also the big bomb he dropped talking about wanting to be Namichi Marufuji's opponent for his 25th
Yeah.
anniversary show in September. Balls in Noah's court. Obviously Marufuji hasn't announced his opponent yet, but I mean, I already had thought that that was probably who were they going to lean towards. Like I know
Mhm.
that Ren Narita wants a match, and I think he's going to get it, but not at the 25th anniversary show. Like
Yeah.
he's not big enough for that yet. Um, so yeah, that was a really cool moment for
Yeah.
me as somebody who watches Noah. Um,
It was
so
just being in the media scrum with Osprey, like, because of I've grown not grown up like the last like 5-6 years I've been following Brit Rest so closely, so I've seen the progression of his career like in the British Indies and how much he's done for them. So it was just like I didn't ask him a question, but it's not like something that I'm like I regret or anything. I was just, again, I don't want to say happy to be there, but it was just such a cool moment to see someone whose career I've seen so much of like in person, like getting him to do things like this. like for companies like AEW and New Japan. It's just awesome to see, and like I have a lot of respect for Ospreay and his in-ring talent and the stuff that he tries to do for the like just like the business as a whole. Like I don't know, it was just a really cool moment.
Yeah, you even said that like during the match, you were like, this guy used to wrestle in like bingo halls. Like
Yeah,
this is crazy to watch. Yeah, it's it's really cool to see so many people come full circle. Like,
yeah,
and I think that was just super. And I think for me, like obviously, like he's not like underrated by any means, but it was cool for me to like even just see Kenny of just like the elites. New Japan used to be this niche thing. Like it used to be
yeah,
this niche thing, this underground thing, and now like they can legitimately call themselves some of the biggest wrestlers in the world. And like the way that they brought the rest of New Japan with them to have moments like this be possible for Forbidden Door, AEW, and New Japan, and then like everybody else. And like Ospreay said himself, he said like obviously I think a lot of people knew I was a really great wrestler,
mm-hmm.
but that Wrestle Kingdom match really put me on the map to where like the entire world I feel like is looking at me now. And
Yeah,
I think it's really cool. And you think of like this all started with a little YouTube channel called Being the Elite.
being
And it was just a really cool moment. Like I think All In
yeah,
is going to be even more better, but like Forbidden Door, like this all started with New Japan and Ring of Honor,
yeah,
and PWG, and
yep,
with their first match being at PWG. Like it was just
yeah,
yeah, it was just super cool. Like seeing that. Um, Next on the scrum was Brian Danielson. Listen, I genuinely think that there needs to be like a master class. I could listen to Brian Danielson talk about professional wrestling
for hours.
all day long. Like he has such a nuanced perspective, like,
Yeah,
and it doesn't come from ego, it doesn't come from greed. He genuinely, and I can see why, like, Tony Khan looks at him like the sun shines out of him. And you know what? Me too.
yeah,
Like, I want somebody to look at me the way that Tony Khan looks at Brian Danielson.
honestly,
Like, you can tell like he's just everything, every nugget of wisdom. Like I can tell he really values that relationship. He appreciates them. I think I appreciate every all of us do as wrestling fans, because Brian Danielson doesn't have to do this.
yeah,
But you can tell he genuinely loves the business, and he's another one. And I think that's what separates all of these guys that like who are in these big matches. These are guys who genuinely have advanced the business, like
yeah,
have truly advanced the business and have created new stars. Like, yes, is Okada a dick right now? Absolutely. But eventually he's going to put one of these young guys over, and it's going
yeah,
to make their career. Like it is going to make their career, and it's going to
yeah,
create the next generation of Japanese stars. You have Kenny, Brian Danielson have done that over here in North America. You have, Will Ospreay, who is really putting the UK scene on his back. Like
yeah,
these are global flag bearers for professional wrestling.
yes,
And I think that that's just so special. Brian Danielson, just listening to him talk, I can do it all day, and like just and the way that he put so many people over and talking about who he
yeah,
wrestled, not just on the New Japan roster, but especially on the AEW roster. Like I said earlier, he gave Orange Cassidy his flowers,
yeah,
which I loved. Um, yeah,
yeah. It
can't
was
say
just
enough.
he was just incredible to listen to. Like, and he was so professional that entire scrum as well. Like, even having broken his arm like an hour before, like, and he sat and
He
answered questions for like a solid 30 minutes. Like, it
was
was
just
incredible.
he's just like, I'm fine. Like literally
Yeah,
talking about like how he hadn't heard Final Countdown in years, and like how he
yeah,
never would have asked for it because it was too expensive. And then find Tony saying it cost a wrestler's contract. He said he'll
yeah,
probably be able to use it one more time. We know where that probably will be.
mm-hmm,
Um, I think AEW also just they bring so much to the table. Just in the sense of I think we're so used to, even if your favorite wrestler ends up going to like a WWE, then like they have to like, how do I say it? Like you can't really reference your past anymore, of where
yeah,
you've been. And I love like AEW does all these little callbacks and like, hey, like let's bring back this entrance that from this other
yeah,
company. Like let's bring back this gimmick from this other company.
yeah,
I love like their willingness to do that, and also like the music just is great. Like I think that one thing about AEW that I love is that they understand the importance of music and entrance. And
Yeah,
like, do they have the most pyro in the world? No. Like, but those entrances are so meaningful to me because it's the
yeah,
little things, you know? So it was just so special. Final
yeah,
countdown, and like he said it was the cost of wrestler's contract,
yeah. That was crazy.
but thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
We appreciated that.
100%. And honestly, just shout out Tony for like, because like he sat there for hours in the scrum, and then like he was answering like he made sure everyone who wanted to ask a question got a chance. And like when I asked my question, he just looked so happy. I was so
I know.
confused. It was like I said, Charlie, a Wrestle Purist, and he was just like, hi. I was like, hello. It was
Like
just a really cool moment.
it, like the way that he smiles at you makes it feel like you already knew each other. It's like, have we met
Yeah,
before? And like we both got like, you know, 2 questions each. I got
yeah,
like basically 4 questions because I asked like 2 questions each. So I'm like, um, I will say like he made himself very available and he didn't have to because we definitely got out of there around 2:30.
yeah,
So that was brilliant. Yeah, it was just really
yeah.
good. Like I just smiled just thinking about it. Like that was an experience, at
Hmm.
least for me, as a person like who just really got into the content phase, and like
Yeah,
that was the dream. Like when I first went to college for like sport management, I thought I was like I would love to do stuff like this, but like there was only one
yeah,
show in town. They never did like press conferences or anything like that. Like there was no type of like, you know, conversation.
yeah.
And AEW gets formed, and like, you know, who would have thunk 5 years later, like you're just sitting in the media
Yeah.
scrum and just yeah.
it
So
was it was a real moment because like I like started doing stuff with Wrestle Purists like last year, but like this year, like it's really blown up for me. Like I had that really cool feature for Christopher Daniels.
mhm.
Like I've done a lot of the podcasts. Like I've been connecting with more people in the community, and then I got to represent the brand at the media scrum, and it was just a really awesome moment. And like I really hope it's like the first of many, and like we both get more opportunities to do stuff like this.
Yeah, and it was super cool. Like, you know, like you get to see your friends that live like, you know,
Yeah.
halfway across the world.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
that's just yeah, it was just such a cool opportunity. Like the it's I look forward to hopefully doing more. Like, you know, All In is going to be
Hmm.
a lot of fun. Um, fingers crossed on All Out. We'll see, man. Like I I don't
I'm really debating it. I really am.
I yeah, like yeah, and I think I justify it by saying like, you know,
It's a
AEW
business
only
trip.
AEW only does 5 pay-per-views a year.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, I would like to make at least 2 or 3 of them.
Hmm.
I've already skipped Revolution and
I'm
Double
too.
or Nothing. I
Hmm.
did Full Gear last year, so you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I've never done a Chicago AEW show.
Yep, me
Never
neither.
done one. And I feel like that's the real AEW experience, and so I
Yeah.
would love to do All Out. So we shall see.
We shall see. We'll get back to you guys.
Yes.
Maybe we'll do a super show after going to All In together,
Oh
and
my
then fly
gosh.
out to Chicago and do Chicago and do All Out together.
Yes.
Who
We'll
knows?
definitely.
Maybe we'll do a super show episode.
Yeah, we'll definitely do an all-in show. Fingers crossed
Yes.
on the all-out show. But I do think it's gonna be exciting. And also, it's Labor Day weekend, so I'll have the day off work.
Hmm.
And so I'll have at least.
University won't start yet for me, so
Oh yeah, I'll already be in school, but
can I just put us over for a second, because we're both still like university students,
yes,
and we're doing all of this on top of still studying, and I'm just really proud of us for that.
yes. It's absolutely insane. Like, I was like, I need to get stuff done, like actually for next semester,
Hmm.
and I was just like, well, you know, I got like a couple articles to write. It's like it's hard finding that balance, but I think
Yeah.
like you know, I always call it having 2 plan A's. Like I'm like really
Hmm.
passionate about school and like, you know, the work that I'm doing. But I'm really passionate about wrestling too. And like hopefully
Yeah.
I get to intersect the two one day. Maybe, you know, like um yeah, it's hard, but I'm really proud of us too. Just like
Hmm.
and I will say we were by far the youngest people in the scrum. Like
100%. Yeah.
100%. So to say like we really got to this position um you know, with you know, not as much experience as everybody else, but still
Yeah.
asking thoughtful questions and like being devoted. And I feel like specifically as a woman in the field, I feel like we have to be 10 times more knowledgeable than a lot of other
Yeah.
people. Like I know you eat, breathe, and sleep like elite lore. And like
Yeah.
I watch wrestling 24/7, just constantly trying to learn more, you know. So it's a lot of passion and dedication that goes into this, into the articles that we write, into like, the podcasts we record. Sometimes it's just shooting the shit, but a lot of
Yeah.
it takes a lot of dedication to love wrestling
Yeah.
passionately out loud like this. And so very proud of that. Hopefully a lot of more opportunities open
Yes,
up. Shout out
absolutely.
to Women's Wrestling Talk Pod, who I got to represent this
Yeah.
past weekend. Um, yeah, so a lot of cool stuff.
Yes.
Super happy. I've walked away from that weekend super happy. And that
My
doesn't always.
heart is full. I'm so inspired.
Yeah. Am I dead tired still?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The jet lag's been getting to me a little bit, but
Yeah. Like
gotta keep grinding, man.
I was delirious like for the first half of the day. Like I
Yeah.
opened my laptop and then I woke up on top of it. I
Like
woke
I
up
got home. I got home at like 1 p.m. today, and like I just had a 4 hour nap, and I felt incredible after. And then like it started hitting me again. I was like, but I'm gonna be super pumped for this episode. And this, like, recording this has been so fun. I'm glad we've done it like so fresh off of the weekend.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just because there's, the thing is, the wrestling world moves so fast. It's just like,
Yeah.
record it quick, then Dynamite happens, then all these other things happen, and like, then you got to talk about that, and like, yeah. Um, really, really happy we did that. Also, I ordered my Forbidden Door shirt on what was that? As soon as I got back, because
Nice.
I was not paying those prices, but they were doing the Forbidden Door sale
Yeah.
on Pro Wrestling Tees. So yeah, I got mine 20% off. So
Love that.
fun stuff.
I bought mine there because I wanted to wear it at the
Oh,
show.
absolutely. No, yeah, definitely. I was already in my, my DIY hangman shirt and
Yeah,
butterfly.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Where can the people find you going
Right.
forward?
So if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'll figure it out. There we go. This is my handle on Twitter. If you want to see more of me with podcasts, I do basically every Wednesday and Thursday on Wrestle Purists. We do a Dynamite like pre-show, and then we do a Dynamite review show. Sometimes I'm on the Sunday episode on Wrestle Purists as well. We do a lot of podcast content over there. And I also sometimes write features for them. I've got one on Orange Cassidy that should be coming out hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Like hopefully within the next week. So by the time this goes out, it should be basically ready to go, hopefully. But yeah.
Awesome. And you can find me at Lyric Wrestling. Oh, I actually did the right side this time. And on the Twitters, and I'm writing for Women's Wrestling Talk Pod. You'll probably see that come out this week. A Forbidden Door feature, not a wrap up, but a feature. It's going to be super fun stuff. And I have some great content coming out for Monthly Puro soon. So super exciting. And yeah, you can find me every Thursday on anywhere you find podcasts as well as YouTube. Doing Maps and Graps. It's going to be, I've been scheduling some really great interviews for going forward. So super exciting stuff. Thank you all for supporting the podcast. And we will see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks
Bye.
for having me. Bye.